And well, let's probably start with introduction. If this is your first session, my name is Nico. I'm gonna be your host for the next 4 hours. I'm a product manager at Golem. I'm one of the co-founder of the company as well, and also at the same time, in the shadows, Alex is here too. He's moderating the chat box and the question and answer. So sometimes if I don't have the time to get through your questions within the question and answer box, you can type some answer or redirect you to the documentation. So let's maybe see today's schedule. So on Friday, we played with Stadium, which was like, one of the most casual use case for crowds. But in terms of behaviors, even if we've been, doing a couple of motions and triggers, we didn't play with a lot of variety of different actions. So today we'll go through something maybe more complex, which is city simulation. It's once again one of the casual use case you may want to tackle, where you've got a background or 3D layout, and you need to populate it with moving characters just to add some life to it. So today we're going to speak about navigation and pathfinding, how you are able to, send your characters somewhere and they can compute their own paths. We're going to speak about multi-entity types. It's true that so far we've been playing with only one type that was always the same. So what if you need to bring multiple characters in your scene, and how you can share behaviors between those types? We're going to speak about a locomotion, and we'll probably speak a lot about this behavior because it's kind of, really central in the way Golem works as soon as you've got moving characters. So I really want you to, get a big, nice catch on how does that behavior work, and how you make it work on your side for your own requirements. We're going to speak about ground adaptation because differently to Friday and Thursday session, we haven't had any obstacles in our scene. So let's see how we can bring obstacles now, how we can have nice ground adaptation going on if the ground is not planar. And we'll see if we got some time. If we do, probably will be great to tackle traffic simulation. We've got a complex and full system to bring cars into a Golem and have nice traffic with traffic lights. So it's a really great way to procedurally have cars in your setup. And also part of the city will be great if we can, speak about maybe birds or all those 3D navigation. We call that flock, but we go into more details later. So we'll see if we got times. If we do, that will be bonus to speak about traffic or flock. If we don't have the time, anyway, there are tutorials on the website, so you can go, on your own and try this. Speaking about going on your own, I've seen that, we have that Discord server. So if you have not joined it, join it yet. Because the community is pretty active on it, and we also help people who have questions, and people start sharing their work. So some of you guys render some heavy stadium crowds, and now that we've been sending licenses, you can now render without that dirty orange watermark. So it would be great if you can share your results. So well, let's speak about the license, by the way. I guess most of you have been receiving your license so far. So maybe let's tackle this. If you haven't installed it, or if it doesn't work on your side, let's go with it together. So if you did well, you had to send us your MAC address. So the MAC address is like a, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's 12 characters, letters and characters, which are a unique ID of your hardware. So it allows us to create a license which only works for you. So you should have received an email which tells you need to download that license file. That link sends you to a website, and you can grab a lick file here. So I'm gonna download it. It's a pretty small file, and it also redirects you to the license installation guide. So let's go through this, and what it tells, it's pretty simple. It tells you that you need to set up an environment variable, which is called Golem, make sure that you've got the the letters right. License, it's written the American way, so it's a C and a S. Well, the best is to copy this anyway. And to make that environment variable set to where your license is. So I'm gonna just put my license I just downloaded. I'm gonna put it into C, Golem, whatever. So let me just copy it from my other screen. I'm kind of taking the license here and just copying it into C, Golem, and we'll browse into this later. Great. So if we need to create an environment variable, we'll need to go into the system. We can start typing edit the system environment variables. And we're end up with the system properties from Windows. You can see that at the bottom here, you can go into environment variables, and here it's gonna list for you all the variables which have been set by maybe third-party softwares, or maybe on your from your administration or your studio administration if you're working from a studio. So what we want to do is to create a new one. As I said, we want to call that variable golem underscore license. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go into here. I'm going to create it just for my user. It depends the kind of admin rights you have on your computer. So here I just do it for myself, but you could do it from your own computer from here. You just go into new. It's going to ask you two stuff: the name of the variable, the value of the variable. So this is exactly what's written into the documentation. The name is going to be golem underscore license, and the value will be my file. So rather than copying the file, and what you can do is just browse your file, go into where your license is. So see golem, I have my license that I just downloaded from the website, and I can just press OK. And now I'm having a golem underscore license entry, which has the path to my license. So it means that if your license moves, or if you rename it, make sure that you rename that variable value, so it it follow what's been just defined here. I'm gonna probably say OK here. On some system, sometimes you may have to reboot your Windows session because Windows doesn't always apply environment variables. But if you're sure that work well, now you can start Maya, and when you start it, you shouldn't have that lock icons anymore, which tells you were in PLE. Also, please take into attention that all the scenes we've been doing so far, those scenes here are contaminated. So even if you open it with a commercial license now, you will still get the watermarks. The reason for that is if we don't do this, we will have studios using the learning license for months, making all their shots and just renting the software for just 1 week, just the time to render their sequences. So as you can guess, this is not something which is viable for us. So this is the reason the scene is contaminated for not forever, but even if you have a commercial license, it's still contaminated. It doesn't change that status. So you need to restart your scene and re-export your caches from scratch to get started. Great. Hope that's clear. I'm not sure if we maybe had any questions regarding last Friday sessions. Maybe some of you guys played with making stadiums where there's some stuff that you couldn't really figured. It's probably a good time to ask them and put them into the question and answers. I have the stadium scene open, so maybe I can quickly show you what we've been doing. And keep in mind that the stream is on YouTube, so you can always refer back to that stream, pause it, and play it at your rhythm to make sure that you can understand some of the specific notions we went through. And I can't see anything specific regarding last week's session, so let's get started with today's session. So I'm gonna go into a file new status, and we're gonna start making locomotion characters. Let's see. So I'm not gonna be, I'm not like a great artist. I'm not even an artist. What I'll do in terms of 3D modeling will be the best I can do, but you'll get the idea of what you can go for. So I'll do something like I create like a quick environment, which I'd like to be my city streets kind of. So on your side as well, you can start making something. And maybe what we can do is do like this is going to be 1 meter. So maybe size your environment according to this. So here I've been doing a 100 per 100 plane, and this is what is 1 meter. So take this into consideration when you're going to create your environments. It's just because I want us to play with a different unit and a different scenario, and see how we can fit those characters which may not be into the same scale into a meter environment. So we're kind of mixing all the different possibilities here. So yeah, that's going to be my 1 meter by 1 meter. So I'm just going to stick with this just as to make it like a scale reference for later. So I'm going to make maybe and probably I need to change also the far clip of my plane, of my camera, because else I will not be able to see most of it. So I'm just going to change this. I guess you guys are already familiar with that. I'm just changing the near clip plane and far clip plane of my scene. So, okay, and what's my unit here? That's 1 meter. So probably need to make something bigger than this to put a couple of characters. And I'll bring some buildings too. So I'll make some obstacles for once for my characters to avoid this. So yeah, do not go into making New York City. Just make a nice and big enough environment for your crowds. And if it's not big enough, we'll be able to well, scale it afterwards. Anyway, so let's make a couple of obstacles and let's go. So my plane, once again, what I've been doing here is just as a unit reference, because I'm not really used to work in centimeters. I've been doing a 100 per 100 plane, and this is what will be 1 meter square. So this is 1 meter per 1 meter. So I kind of suit up the rest of my environment based on this, and I'm going to create probably another obstacle here. So let's imagine here that what you're doing is sidewalks with buildings, and probably there's going to be a road in between. And probably I can also make in my environment here, I can probably add some subdivisions here and make a road in between, like remove some face here and there like this. So it will be, avoided by the characters. So I'm not going to spend too much time with this, but that's just to give you an idea of making a quick environment here. Let me check what's my unit. So I think it's probably a bit big, but let's stick with this. Great, I'm going to save my scene and 03 city pedestrians. Great. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll bring the same character we've been bringing so far, but as I said at the beginning of this session, we're going to create multiple entity types. So we're going to bring more than just one. So let's, as always, use the entity types button. I'm not going to ask you which button it is. I guess you guys now recorded what you need to do. So I'm going to create a new type, still by clicking the entitytype node. And once again, from the character pack, the Golaem subdirectory, and from the characters directory, we'll play with the casualman_light character. It's going to ask, as always, for shaders. So make sure you load the right one. Here I'm using Arnold, so I'm going to load casualman_light _AR. RS is for renderman. RS is for redshift. VR is for V-Ray. I guess you guys now getting used to this. And I'm going to bring my characters in. And we can't really see those guys in our scene. The reason for that is because they're super, super, super small. I'm going to zoom in once Maya finished to export this. But you notice that the characters are super, super small, so we'll have to change some parameters here. Great. So here we go. And if we zoom in the scene, you can see that here, this is my character. So it's super, super small, right? But no problem with that. Okay. So first questions of this session is we've got that character, which is super small, but we've got that environment, which is super big. Do we need to change the units? And if we do, what kind of value should we put into this? So the unit here is set up as meters. Should we change it? And if we change it, what's the value we should put into it? Come on, guys, show up the chat box. I can see M, which I guess stands for meters. I have a centimeters. I have a meter, centimeter, centimeter, 1 meter, meter, centimeter, foot, foot. Okay. Meters. Okay. So it's kind of okay. The answers here are kind of shared between meters and centimeters, and one person figured that maybe it's a good time to use the foot units. You're probably into the imperial system, right? You're either in maybe UK or Commonwealth or India, where you guys are still using miles, yards, and all those weird units. Okay, let's see if we stand with meters and create the popTool. So no need to do it right now. But a right way to check if that's the right unit is to usually like create a popTool and see what's going on here. So, okay, there's no much going on here, to be honest. So let's maybe zoom on it. And if we zoom on it, we can see that those slots here, they're like super tiny, right? For some reason. So here, what we can do is, for sure, we could increase the radius and multiply this by 100 or something. So I can probably like put something like 0.3 for 100 is going to be, and well, let's skip that error message. I think it's way too much, that one here, right? And yeah, I can scale it. But you notice that I got a warning message. And the thing is, if you stay with the meters units, you'll have to multiply every single parameter, which depends on distance, acceleration, or speed yourself. And that requires, and that's probably a lot of parameters. And if you miss one, you'll have some really weird behaviors. So it looks like meters is not exactly the right answer. So what you really need to think about is, once again, how much right now is a square of my grid. So let's go back to my initial grid here. And we have just to think about how much this is in terms of real distance. And according to that environment, this can't really be 1 meter if we want to have characters, you know, being that tall. So probably not the right answer. The right answer was the other half of the community who put that. They said centimeters, and that's the right answer here, because what we consider here is 1 grid unit is 1 centimeters. So this is exactly what we need to have, is the centimeters unit. So we'll go into the manager node and be careful about setting up your unit into centimeters. Great. So now that we are in centimeters, it means that, once again, don't do it right away. But if I create like a population tool, now I have you know, positions which look like more natural, or which look like more adapted to what I want to do here. So my environment is probably a bit big for my characters, but that's just because I don't have the right eye for modeling. But this is exactly the idea here. It's a 1 grid unit here is 1 centimeter, so that's good. Great. So maybe before actually populating that scene, you may notice that this time we've got obstacles here. And if we don't pay attention to those obstacles, we'll be able, you know, to create characters which are in collision with the environment. So this is not exactly something what we want. So when you've got obstacles in your scene, and that may happen even if you're doing stadiums. Yesterday, well, on Friday, we didn't really question ourselves about avoiding some specific zones. But let's say sometimes you have obstacles in your scene, you may want to you know, parse that environment before, and just compute where are the zones where the people are able to go and navigate. So what we'll do is we're going to compute a terrain, and from that terrain, we're going to extract all the available zones. So I'm going to remove that population tool. I'm gonna just take all my geometry here. I probably group it into a environment group. Save the scene, and I'm gonna open a tool we haven't really used yet, which is that one here. So it's the fourth icon in the shelf. So it's called the NavMesh Creator. If you guys been playing with Unity in the past, navigation mesh is quite of a popular concept, especially in video games, and that exists into Unity. And NavMesh means that you can convert any selection of polygons, and we're gonna extract from those polygons where are my character able to go. So let's open that tool and see what's in it. So so it provides us some statistics about how many triangles we've been selecting, what's the size of that environment that we have. We've got some options that are a bit advanced that we don't really need to touch with, but please make attention that we've got also here a crowd unit parameter, and here as well, and that's super important that you do it as well. Here as well, we need to set up the unit to the unit that we are using. That tool here, the reason why it's not reading the value from the manager is that it's independent from the simulation. So it doesn't have to know about the simulation. So even if we've been setting the environment into our simulation, that tool doesn't know about it. So what we usually do is we provide studios with environment variables so they can set default value for those, so they don't have to change it manually every time they create a new scene or they parse a new environment. But here it's not set on our side. So please make attention that here you're switching this to centimeters as well. So all those units now will have a different meaning. And if you don't do it, you may have a correct display, but it will take ages to compute because that environment will be huge, and you'll have wrong results when doing navigation. So once again, I'm going to insist on that. And I know that even if I insist on it, some people will not set it properly. So make sure that here you align that value with that manager value that we've just set. So within the manager, we set crowd unit to centimeter. Within the NavMesh Creator, we set crowd unit to centimeters. Great. Okay. So let's see what are the 4 over parameters. And what they do is they define what are your character's ability. So first we've got the maximum step 8. So what's the maximum 8 a character can cross? So let's pretend my character will be, probably this tall here. So super tall compared to the environment, because it's a giant or a monster or weird creatures. Maybe this here is not an obstacle. It's just probably just a piece of the environment my characters can step in. So here it tells us that it's 0.41 meters. So that's 40 centimeters. So that's 40 grid units here in my scene, which is in centimeters. That's the maximum height my characters will be able to cross. If obviously you've got something else, another type of creatures with different legs, you can lower or put higher that value depending on what you need. Great. Next, we've got what's the minimum radius of my character. So minimum radius means that if you've got 2 walls, what's the distance between those 2 walls in which a character can go through. If those walls are super close to each other, maybe my character's envelope, there will be too big and they couldn't go through. So we have to, also know that data. And obviously that may change from one character to the other. So let's just provide the minimum value. And if some characters are bigger, even if the path exists, they will not take it, but that's just to know which part we should discard right away and we don't need further into the environment. Also, side note is you can have multiple nav mesh in your scene. You can have one nav mesh for your creature monster, which is super tall, and one nav mesh for your regular characters, which are human sized, and they can have different properties and different way to handle the characters. Then we've got clearance. So if we were about to have ceilings, what's the distance under which the characters can go? So here we don't have any bridge or tunnels, but if you got tunnels, we also need to know what's the height under which your character can go. You can, still increase your environment later. and add more obstacles, do like a full guys environment with a lot of traps, and see how it gets processed by the environment NavMesh Creator. And the final parameter we need to set up, so all those parameters were in units. The final one is in degrees, and that's the maximum slope the characters can climb. So 45 degrees mean that it's slope like this. We can go, we can still walk on, but if it's above that angle, it will be discarded from the environment. So here it's kind of set up for, biped characters, human size characters, because once again, it's probably 90% of the job. So let's check, let's keep the default parameters. I'm insisting a lot on it, but if you don't set it properly, you'll have issues. So make sure it's set up properly. You can decide how many threads you want to use, but that's only if you got a really massive environment, which is not really the case here. And what we'll do is just press the compute and save button. Oh, and select, obviously we need to select the geometry first. So make sure geometry is selected, that you've got the default attribute except the unit. And let's do compute and save. So when you do this, you get asked to browse this, and you can decide where you're going to put this file. So I'm going to put this into Golaem, probably create. And it will take more or less time depending on the size of the environment. But at the end, you should get something like this. So you should get like red borders where your obstacles are, and at the limits of your environment. If it takes a lot of time to compute, it's probably because you haven't set the unit properly, and probably you also get a warning message which asks you if you want to proceed, even if it's going to take a long time to compute. If you started the process and it's super long, you can escape it using the escape key, and that will allow you to change properly the crowd units and to go back to something proper. So at the end, if everything goes well, you should get that red lines appearing into the environment. And also now you've got into your scene a transform, like a group into your outliner, which is called GLM environments. If we expand this, we'll figure that there's a terrain node, exactly the kind of stuff we had before. So, we were using it for the stadium before for the characters to adapt, but so it uses exactly the same properties. But within the navigation attributes, you can also see that now we reference a file, which is our obstacles there. So we're all good. Looks pretty fine to me. And now we've got something which looks like an environment I can start with. So if your lines are really above the ground, it means that you haven't created a centimeters environment. So it means that your unit is set up, it's not set up properly. So here you can see my lines, they're indeed above the ground to avoid a Z fight, but they're actually 2 centimeters above the ground. They should not be 2 meters above the ground. If they're in meters, it means that you're not using the right units. Once again, remember that within that scene, we are in centimeters. So my grid here is super, super, super small, because now I'm considering that my grid unit is 1 centimeter. But that's fine. If you want to stay working in meters, you can just create a working environment, a meter working environment, and just set up your manager to meters and just align. Now you know about how you set those and how you move with those. Okay. One question is, can we modify polygon after that? You can modify the polygon, but it will not have any impact on the navigation mesh. So I don't know, let's say you need to add a new obstacles in your scene. Let's say I create maybe another building in my scene and do something like this. you need to process your environment again. So what you can do is probably delete the previous node here, the previous terrain. And oh, damn, I think Maya doesn't like me to delete that node. Haha. Okay, I think Maya is dead now. Let me kill that. Okay, so you can probably delete that node here. Oh, no, okay, it's done. It's okay. And no crash. That's great. And just, reselect that environment and reprocess it. Okay, so apparently a lot of people couldn't really make this work properly. So once again, here we made a super huge environment. Please pay attention to the size of my grid here. This is the default Maya grid. So let's take a look at the environment and see what's going on. Also, make sure that when you display Golem here, when you use the settings, that your locators are supposed to be shown, because terrain is using locators. So if you really want to see how does the terrain looks like in your scene, you want to make sure that locators show option is set. So one way to quickly check this is to use the check settings buttons to make sure that here within your show options for your viewport, the locators option is enabled. So once you've done this properly, make sure that your manager is set to centimeters. And when you process the NavMesh, once again, make sure that here it's set up to centimeters. And if you recompute that environment, now you should get everything. Let me check if I disable locators display for the characters. Yeah, you can see if you disable locators display, you're not having the locator being displayed. So make sure that within your show options, locators is checked. So that's the right way to show the actual terrain of your characters. So who's able to get the red lines proper into a centimeters environment? And yeah, remember every time you throw a new session, make sure that you check the settings within your scene. So, okay, great. Okay, so far so good. Okay, excellent. The terrain is kind of a prerequisite. So once again, really make sure that lighting, that within the show options, you've got the locators. And well, if you don't have obstacles, we'll see later. Slots are very huge. That's just because you didn't set the environment or the unit properly. So okay, I'll move forward. Just stick with meters units if you are not able to go through that, or check the stream later. I really insisted on my environments. So once again, please really check the grid, the size of my grid here. Here, what I'm saying is one grid is 1 centimeter. So this is why my environment is so huge. So anyway, if you're not able to make this work with centimeters, just stay with the default. Like create your environment the regular size. Let Golem the regular unit, compute the terrain with the regular unit. Don't change it. I just wanted to show you how you can work differently. But if you can't get this working, just working meters will not make any difference. And if you can't make this work, just create a 100 by 100 plane and just set your environment to meters. Well, let Golem environment to meters, let the NavMesh to meters, and just have a terrain. And if really that doesn't work for you, just maybe select the plane and click on the terrain button, and that will just create a terrain without boundaries, but just to make sure that everybody at least has a terrain in their scene. Great, let's move forward. Now what we'll do is we're gonna create a population tool. So now that we have terrain boundaries, we can create a population tool, and we'll be sure that this time characters will not generating in zones that they're not allowed to. So that's the whole goal of doing the environment processing. Make sure that characters will not be created into those boxes here or that boxes here, so they all exist into a valid environment. So make sure that you have only one terrain node, And from that, terrain node, what we'll go is go into the popTool and just pick your favorite mode. We've been playing with a couple of those. We've been playing with the meshes, components, with the grid. So probably now it's time to explore and have different options. Maybe I can create like a box, and I can put my box wherever I want to, even if it goes through obstacles. And we'll notice that now the characters will not be generated into where are the obstacles of my scene. Up. So I can bump the number of characters here. I can also move my locator, and we can see that my slots update accordingly to my environment. So we make sure never to generate characters, and we're kind of good with that. So I'll let you, play with your favorite mode, set up a couple of characters. So here I'm having 1,000 characters in my scene, which is pretty decent. So I think I'm gonna stick with that. And if I press the create button now, as always, it will create now within the middle of my scene a walking icon, which is sized accordingly with my environment. So this is also kind of a view insight about what's your unit right now. It gives you a good idea of how you should scale your environment. And if we play the first frame here, nothing goes on. So that's a tricky question. Now, we've been emitting particles, we have a simulation, but when we play the scene, there's nothing in the scene. Can anyone guess what's going on exactly? It's kind of tricky. So no problem if no one can really figure it out. But you can play this with this on your side as well. Check what's going on. So I do have a terrain setup. It's true that I don't have motion clips, but we've seen that previously, even if we don't have motion clips, that doesn't forbid the characters to appear. We set an entity type, and we do have an entity type, which I should probably rename man character. So everything is set up properly. If we take a look into, the script editor, we don't have any error. If we launch the check scene settings, we don't have any error. It tells us that the simulation is right. And I've seen the answer here. Someone proposed that entity are in meters, so we need to scale them up. And it's probably true. So let me show you. Actually, my crowd are here. They are here. That's my crowd character, guys. And that guy here is actually in a meters unit. So when we populate the scene, even if we say the scene is in centimeters, we are not scaling the characters for you because we don't know exactly what units they are actually using. So it's your duty, if you use characters which are not being made into the right unit, it's your duty here to scale them up and scale them by the right the right scaling ratio. So where should I put this? I can put this into the manager. Like if we go into the manager node, we can see that we've got the current time, what's the start frame, what's the unit, what's the percentage of entity we need to simulate, what's the the percentage of entities we need to draw, and we've got like a shared attribute, which is entities scale. So if all your entities in your scene, they 100 of times smaller than your unit, what you can just do is just provide a 100 scale. So here I'm changing the default value from 1 to 100 to say that, okay, my characters, they're actually in meters and I need to scale them up to fit with my environment. That happens a lot. I mean, in studios, sometimes your shot or your project will be in centimeters and you get some characters from maybe Mixamo or from Urpack, and those are in meters units. So they're not exactly the right size. So rather than, creating a specific character file for that, what we can just do is just scale them up. So scale them up with the crowdManager node. So that's one option. You could also have resized them from their entity type node. Within the entity type node, next to the character file path, we've got some scale min and scale max multipliers that we can apply on a character. So we get some bounds. And what we could have done also is probably just multiplying this by 100. So it will be between 90 and 110. And as soon as we scale up our characters, now we'll have characters which are into the correct scale, which are corresponding to our radius, and we're all good. So another question is there a Golaem clipping plane parameter somewhere? I see my characters, but I need to move through my scene to see the ones in the background. This is not a Golaem clipping plane. It's it's just Maya stuff. So you just need to select your Maya camera. So if you're in perspective mode, you just select your Maya camera and you just change the near clip plane and the far clip plane. So this is not a Golaem stuff. We don't control the camera. That's just a camera, a default Maya system that you need to change. So what I did here is I multiplied my near clip plane and my far clip plane by 100. So now I have a 1, and I guess it's 10 million units here. And so when I move out from my scene, I can still see my characters here. So once again, you need to select your geometry, and you're good to go. I just want to make sure, are there still some people who don't have any terrain red borders into their scene? Just let me know if you don't have red borders into your scene, or you couldn't really compute the terrain. And what I'll just do is just to start just a regular scene with meters. So yeah, let me know if you couldn't have any terrain in your scene, if you don't see red borders, if you're kind of stuck at the previous step. I just want to make sure that everybody is still within the train. Okay, I can see no message, so that's great. And I also can see that it's different from Houdini. So is it different from Houdini, like the right way or the wrong way? I'm just like super curious. I haven't really played with different units while doing crowds. Okay, let's move. And let's move forward and see how we can have path planning and navigation for those characters. So next step is we need to assign a brain for our characters. So what we'll do is go into the behavior editor, open it. Once again, it starts blank. So blank means that we need to, as the message says here, we need to open the crowd entity type and from the behavior outliner to get the party started. So I can just double click on my characters here, on my character entity type, to open its space, and we'll just drag and drop some behaviors into this. So also just a quick reminder, because I can see some people couldn't figure what's the parameters. If you want to scale up your characters because they're not using the right units, it's always within the manager. The manager is kind of the node which is holding all the parameters which are shared by the crowd. So it's always that same node, which is the first node created when you do a Golaem simulation. So you can select the manager here. You can see you've got an entities scale parameter. You just need to pump this up to 100. Great. So let's move by defining some behaviors for my characters. So the first thing I'd like my characters to do is I'd like to specify a target for those guys. So I'll let you tell me which behavior I should use for that. So you can hover on top of every single icon here and see what are their name and what they do. So let me know, how do I send a character somewhere? So how do I specify a target for my characters? Let's see. So some people provide as an answer, GoTo behavior, the first one, GoTo locomotion, the first one. Okay, so it looks like we've got mostly good answers. So indeed, we want to use that GoTo behavior. So GoTo behavior means that so that's the first icon into the behavior system. And if you just hover your mouse upon the icon, you can see it tells GoTo, which performs a path planning to a given target. And it also tells you that it only works if a NavMesh has been created in your scene. So true, what we'll do is we'll drag and drop that behavior and we're going to put into the flow. Also, as a reminder, please remember that if you want to remove a behavior from the flow, you just have to press Alt, select your node and move it away. If you just drag and drop it when the arrow shines, now we get sticky to the arrows. So you can remove this from the flow, add it to the flow just by pressing or not pressing Alt key. So yeah, indeed, GoTo behavior seems like the right answer here. Let's take a look at the different parameters which it has. So I select my GoTo behavior here, and I can see that my different parameters, so the first parameter I have is reach mode. So it's a drop-down which tells me that I can pick between reach or flee. So it means that I can either reach a target or flee some specific danger that I have into my scene. So okay, let's stick with the reach value here. And the second drop-down that we have is the target mode. And we can see that we've got way more options here. So once we reach, what do we want to reach? So by default, it's a random target into my environment. So my characters will just pick a random target, and that will be their target, and they compute a path to go to that. You can also use a population tool as a target. So we probably play with different options. You can follow a curve, you can use a mesh, you can use expressions, particle systems. So there's plenty of different handy way. And when we do battles tomorrow, we'll probably play with the particle system one, etc., etc. For now, let's just stick with the default options and we'll probably change those later. Okay, so that's the first option here. And my next behavior I want to put is, well, you know what? Let's, from that point here, let's just check what does that behavior do. If I just rewind my scene here and play, okay, nothing really happens. So nothing really happens. If we check the script editor, we don't get any error message. If we check the scene check test, nothing's going on either. So apparently we're missing something, but Golaem doesn't tell you what you're missing. And actually what happens here is if you select a character, we can see it's playing the GoTo shape behavior. So he's playing that behavior, no problem with that. But the thing is, we haven't specified anything regarding the speed, acceleration, how do we need to follow that path, how do we need to avoid the other characters. But so it means that we haven't, so we specify that we need to compute a path, but we haven't said that we need to follow that path. So we need to bring a behavior which will allow to define a avoidance strategy. So I can already see some people naming that behavior. So that behavior indeed we want to use now is the navigation behavior. So they're next to each other. So GoTo is the first behavior, navigation is the next one, and we can see it's kind of a top view amongst two characters on top of each characters, which are like avoiding each other. And if we hover with the mouse, it tells you that this is the navigation behavior, which performs path following action while avoiding obstacles in the scene. So this is exactly what we need. The path behavior compute a path, the GoTo behavior computed a path, and the navigation behavior will follow that path. So it means that we need to bring that behavior, and obviously one of the casual questions is, where do I put it? Do I put it before? Do I put it after? Do I put it on the same spot so it creates for me a parallel operator? You tell me. Same spot, parallel, 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 parallel on the same. Okay, looks like we've got a kind of an agreement here. Okay, it's actually the right answer. Well done. So I'm gonna just drag and drop it and release it. And as soon as I release it, now it creates the parallel operator. So you've got the right answer. What we want is compute a path and at the same time, follow that path. So those two behaviors work in collaboration, right? So why are they separated? They're separated because you may want sometimes to just be avoided by characters. So you want to exist in terms of avoidance for all the other characters, but you do not want to follow a path. So if I got something like this, my characters here will be avoided by the others, but they will not move. So sometimes you want to follow a path when you have it, and sometimes you just want to be avoided by other characters because you're just static. So this is why those two behaviors exist in, as two different nodes. And also sometimes you may want to change your target. You may want to change the speed at which characters go. So that's one advantage of breaking this up into different situations. So, okay, that's great. So next step here is to check my navigation behavior. So what does he has as a parameter? So I can select my navigation behavior, and here we can see we can select what the speed, at which speed my characters will move, what's the acceleration of those guys, how bold they are, so how much aggressive they are compared to the rest, and it means that if you got some bunch of people stuck, if you got some characters really bold, you will be able to go through and really make his way through the crowd. So you got that kind of stuff, and which is set up to extrapolation, and we'll speak about this later. Okay, so let's see if this works now. So let's rewind the sim and let's play the sim and see what's going on. So now we've got something going on. We've got our characters so moving here and apparently picking a target. And if we pay attention, they are avoiding the others. They are avoiding the other characters in the scene, and they're just scattering through the environment. So great. So I just added a couple of frames to see what's going on here. And apparently we can see that some people are just, once they reach the target, they just stop and then don't really go further. So just a quick sum up about what we've been doing so far. So first, into the GoTo behavior, we set up random targets. Into the navigation, we haven't changed anything. So we kind of set with the default attributes here. If you got any error regarding targets not being found or whatsoever, it means that your terrain is not correct, that you haven't changed the unit properly, and that's even if it looks like the red borders are here, your environment is not set up properly. So it means that you haven't set your crowd unit to centimeters, and when you do that, it means that the environment is not the right side. So it's not the right size, so the characters could not reach it. So well, in the meantime, if anybody has issues with terrain not being reachable whatsoever, join to your terrain here. So that's only if you got any issues. What you can do is just go back into the default mode, which is default plane. So default plane means that you don't have any obstacles anymore in your scene, and now your characters, they can navigate anywhere they want to. So if any of you guys have any issues with the terrain, that's probably because of a unit mistake. So just change within your terrain the navigation mesh mode to default plane. Now you can see my characters that don't avoid the obstacles. So remove the obstacles, but that's just to allow you to keep following my track here. If you guys have a correct NavMesh, that's all good. You should notice that the characters, they are avoiding the other guys, and they are good. So one question I get often, and I can see it also from the chat box, is so what's used in terms of avoidance here? So whenever you populate your scene, the size of those, the radius of those slots are actually defining what do we use in terms of avoidance. And you can actually preview your characters in terms of avoidance capsules by going into the entity type and go into the display mode, and you can switch into cylinders. And when you switch into cylinders, now you can see this is what's used by your characters to make avoidance. And if you pay attention to that shape here, you'll notice that none of those never ever intersects. So this is what's used as a collision avoidance system here. It has a radius and a height, and that radius and that height are defined by the population tool. This is where you specify what's the size of my radius of my characters, and what's the height of my characters, and those are set up into the crowd units, which is centimeters. So you don't have to scale this up, scale this down. If you change your units, it's all going to be aligned all the way to the other. How do we adjust so they keep more distance to each other? We're gonna probably, well, I'm just answering it now. We're not gonna touch this, but well, you can touch it if you want to. If you want to have, you know, a less dense environment, you want to have characters making more way around each other, you can go into your entity type where you control the shape of your characters, and you've got something which into the entity types attribute, into the navigation attribute, you get something which is called personal space. And personal space is a kind of, you know, when you're in a, I don't know, when you're in a, like on the sidewalk, walking in a city, you're kind of having around you a space in which you do not want stranger people to come with. It really depends, you know, on what's the environment, if it's dense or not dense. But let's say it's not so dense in a city street environment, you tend to avoid having people around you. So when you select a character, you can actually see that data. So when you select it, you can see on the ground, we've got the radius of the character, which is the inner circle, and we've got the personal space, which is the outer circle. More space around me, so that personal space is kind of a percentage of the radius. So 0.8 means 0.8 of my radius. The next time you throw your simulation, now you've got a space in which you do not want to have people in. Please take into account that we're going to try to respect this, but it's not a hard limit. If in some situation we don't have any other, you know, any other answer, some people will enter that zone. So personal space is something we tend to keep free from other people, but we can't always. So if you really want to have like a strict limitation, what you can do is just increase that radius. The radius of your characters is really what you will use for collision avoidance. And if I go back to my previous stuff here, and I just put into my popTool a higher radius for my characters. So let's make a, you know, a bigger radius and replace my particle system. Now what's going to be avoided is going to be that cylinder system here. And I need to run a couple of frames. And that radius is way bigger than my actual geometry. So that's an actual hard limit for the characters to take into account. So this is the geometry. This is my cylinder. So you can see they're way more bigger than this. So it's just a way also to keep more distance between the characters. So it's 7 p.m. on my side. So let's make a break. For everybody who was able to reach that point here, let's make a break. What I'll do is I'll just recap quickly for everybody who may have been lost with that session so far. We'll kind of do a quick run through this. So let's meet in the 7 minutes. So at 7:07. For other people, you know, who've been successfully doing this so far, you deserve the right to be in breaks. For people who want to catch up where we are right now, we'll redo the scene from scratch, like super fast. So yeah, see you in yeah, at 7:08 now. Great. So if I'm going to consider here that if you're still around, you want to fix your scene. So what I'll do is I'll delete everything from my scene except the environment. So really up to you here. What I decided to go into that scene here is to use a different unit, but feel free to just stick with the unit we've been playing so far. No problem with that. What I've been doing here is I've been considering that my default grid in Maya didn't change anything into the grid display. That one grid square is 1 centimeter. So I just make an environment which follow that rules. So I make something like, sorry, really big. And I also change my near clip plane and my far clip plane. But feel free, you know, if you just want to stick with default stuff, stick with the default stuff. So workflow is the same. We create an entity type. So I'm going to load my casual man-like character. So let's load it. Great. If you decided to go the same way than me, having an environment which is super big, we need to tell Golem that this environment here is not using the default unit of Golem. So default unit within Golem is meters. So 1 grid square here is not 1 meter in my scenario, but in your scenario, maybe it is. So here I'm going to tell to Golem, this is my centimeter unit. So really up to you here, decide how much a grid square is for you. Really depends what you've been doing. Great, now we're good. Next, here I've got all my geometry, which is grouped, but no problem if it's not grouped, if it's separate, nothing is merged. I just created, so I just created my plane. I just created my box, 3 boxes here. And this is what I'm going to use to create my environment. So I put all my geometry, which belongs to my computing, into a group, but no mandatory. What is mandatory is to select all the geometry you require, which compose your obstacles, your ground, your stairs, your sidewalks, your crossing, whatever. So you just select all the geometry you want to process, which is going to be used as the environment. And this is what we're going to take into account next into this. So here I'm selecting my transform here, but you can select your meshes differently. We're going to open the 4th tool into the shelf, which is the NavMesh Creator, which is used to display and compute my terrain. I'm going to stick with the default parameters, except here I will change the unit because once again, I made the choice to be in the centimeters unit. If you decided to stick with the default unit, just stick with meters. Here, I'm having a centimeter unit. So I want to make sure that I'm using the right unit, which is the same than the one I set up into my manager. Okay, great. So just stick with the default parameters, except the unit if you've been having the same size of environment than me. Here, while my selection is enabled on my meshes, I'm going to compute and save. And I'm going to save into a new file. The file is extension GSE, which stands for Golem Spatial Environment. And if everything goes according to the plan, you should get red lines on your environment. If it doesn't, please check that within the show menu in your viewport, you have locators checked. If you don't have it checked, you will not see your terrain. If we check into the outliner, we're having a terrain node. So far, so good. Next step is pretty casual. We're going to populate the scene, same way we've been doing this in previous tutorials. So here I'm just going to create a box. As soon as my environment is set up and my unit is set up properly, I have the right size of characters slots. So I can create as many as I want to. I place them the way I want to. I'm going to change maybe the distance. I'm going to noise the positions, probably change the orientation. You already know this pretty well. And when you're good, you're going to create that crowd. If we play a couple of frames, we'll notice that the characters do not appear because once again, I'm within a scene which is in centimeters. But maybe that's not in your case. If you're using meters, you should see the characters. If you do not see them, we'll need to scale them up. So we're just to scale the characters here because they're not been made into that centimeters unit. We need to go into the crowdManager, entities scale this to 100. And next time we'll throw the sum. Now we've got 100 times bigger characters, which are more appropriate to the size of the radius here. Okay, let's finish with adding some behaviors to my characters. So we're going to open the behavior editor and open my entityType shape to open the flow. And we're going to drag and drop the 2 first behaviors. One is to provide a target, put it into the flow. One is to provide an avoidance strategy, put it into the flow at the same spot, create a parallel, and we're good. We can just rewind the sum and run the sum, and now we should get moving characters. Okay, so here we go. Let me review the questions quickly. I'm getting missing perception locator while using navigation behavior. navigation, the entities navigate blindly. It means that you delete some of the nodes. So make sure that you created a terrain in your scene. Make sure that you do have a Golaem environment terrain here. And this is what's going to be used for the characters. Oh, and why do I all gather here? I'll figure this later. That's weird. Okay. Okay. Else, if else if you have any issues with terrain, just go back into default plane, as I said earlier, and we'll be good. How would you limit the behavior of the people for where they can go? Let's say have hallway between two buildings, and right now a majority of the people want to go through that hallway instead of the main street. Can I specify that only a few people can go through that way? Yeah, sure. You can you can use triggers. You can use checkpoints also to say, okay, I'm going to provide intermediate targets there. You can paint also preferences for some of your characters, so you can paint a vector field. So there are multiple ways of doing this. I'll let you play with all those options. Probably checkpoints will be the right way, or maybe the simplest way to go through. Or probably painting vector fields. We'll see later, maybe if we've got a chance to do this. So let me figure what's my issue here with my scene. They're all like colliding. Let's see what's going on. I'm probably having like a, yeah, okay. They're just making a bottleneck, so I probably have to paint or provide different checkpoints here. Never mind, I'll fix that later in my scene. I really want to like move in into maybe different options for the characters. So the first thing you may have noticed is some characters, once they reach their targets, they just not moving anymore. So let's say the scene in case. So here, if I select a character and a character which is not moving, we can see that, well, if we select the character which is moving, is playing a GoTo behavior, is playing a navigation behavior. If I select a character which has stopped moving, we can see it's only playing a navigation behavior. So I kind of said, in the previous days that behavior, they don't stop automatically, that, you need to set up stop triggers for a behavior to stop, because here we can clearly see that the behavior is not running anymore. So there's apparently a problem. Well, not a problem, but there's apparently like a different behaviors for that specific node here. And we can see the GoTo here, even if the default trigger is set up to false, we can see that GoTo stop by itself. The reason for that is because we figured that most of the time, I'd say 99% of the time, you want that behavior to stop once you reach your target, right? So we're kind of a long time ago, before we kind of agreed that all behavior should not stop by themselves, and so far we kind of agreed that behavior here stopped by itself, and we never changed it. That's something you can obviously influence if you're not happy with this. I mean, you can go into the GoTo behavior, into the advanced attribute, and uncheck that stop on target reached. But just remind, and it's also written into our documentation, just remind that that GoTo stop by itself. So it means that once the character reaches the target, they just stop here and that behavior stop. So let's say I don't want to have characters being stopped into the environment. What should I do to make them reschedule another target path planning? Should I use like maybe an operator? Should I use an option into the behavior? So I've got a couple of answers saying put a GoTo in the loop. Should I use the loop? Are there other options? Are there other people who want to provide maybe an ID here? I'll let you write that down. Maybe it's a complicated idea and you need to write plenty of words around it. So what I just want to do is I want to have characters rescheduling another behavior. So yeah, loop is totally a complete right answer. Some people will probably put another GoTo behavior right after, which will work, but that just means you'll have two two targeting applied on your characters. So Yeah, totally. You can totally use a loop here. So what I'll do is just drag and drop a loop behavior. I'll use the Alt key to detach my go-to behavior, put that into a loop, and put this back into the parallel. So now I have my navigation, which runs in parallel. And now I have my go-to behavior, which will loop by itself. And remember, as that behavior stop by itself, because that option is checked on by default, whenever we reach the target, it will stop by itself, go into the loop, and restart again. And the next time we throw the sum, we'll have, you know, characters just picking target and again and again and again and again. Obviously here that stop on reach target could be reached into other ways. Let's say you uncheck this. There are plenty of triggers. You can use the distance trigger. You can use the expression trigger to figure if you reach your target yet or not yet. So you can totally emulate that behavior, but we just figured that in most situations that's right, and we never bothered changing this default behavior. So yeah, no problem if you haven't had the time to make a loop. I just wanted to show you that you can loop that go-to behavior the same way. Probably let's play with that go-to target and the different options that we have. Right now we're playing with random target, which is probably not what we want because we don't really have control on where does the character scatter. So let's maybe use another mode. What I'll do is first, I'm gonna hide my green population tool so it doesn't bother my view anymore in my scene. And I'll let you try making on your own. So let's check in the mode. We'll see that here, the second mode here is target popTool. So it looks like we can use a population tool to specify a new position for my character or a target position for my character. So I'll let you change that mode here, see how does the interface adapt to that choice, and I'll let you see how you can create maybe another node in your scene and use that node to target the character. So I'll let you try for maybe a minute or two, like create your own population tool target the way you want to and set it to that behavior, see what's available to you as soon as you turn that mode from random to target popTool. You can notice that there are some attributes which now becomes available. So I'll let you create your own new popTool. So hide the previous one and let's not use that one here. Let's create another one from scratch and let's use this. Okay. And I'll take this as an opportunity to drink a bit and breathe. And let me know if anyone was able to reach that point. Let us know that you reach it. There's no way I can check it, but I kind of trust you. Okay, done, all good. Great. The tiny people are converging. All good, all good. Excellent. So let's see how you can do it. So you notice that when you change the dropdown from random target, those attributes here, they're grayed out. And when we go into popTool, we can see those attributes here, they're kind of becoming active. So that first dropdown is in target popTool. So what's the population tool we can use as a target? If I check the dropdown, we can see that there's a no target popTool option to just rename it to nothing existing. And we've got our previous popTool that we used to populate the scene. We could totally use that if we wanted to, but we can probably like create a new one for that. So I'm going to create a new population tool. I can use that icon here, which is the one we've been using so far. Or I can also use that button here from the shelf, which is a crowd target locator. Is just kind of old dependency stuff. We had a specific node dedicated to targets and we didn't want to remove it from the interface. But if we click on this, it's going to create a completely regular popTool for characters. That popTool is going to be a grid popTool in which I can add, positions as well, and change the distance between those positions, probably add more. So it's a grid, the same stuff we've been using so far. We can provide some noise. And the really nice thing about the population tool is that you can paint its density. You can control the slots individually. You can change, positions of slots here and there to make them fulfill exactly what you want. You can match it with polygons, meshes. It has plenty of options to, conveniently place your position for your characters. So we decided to rely on that tool because it has plenty of different ways to be created and controlled. So what I'll do is I just created that target. That's great. It's already named target here because I've used that button. So it named that population tool target. And what I'll just do is go into my GoTo behavior here. And I say that I want to reach a target popTool. The popTool I want to reach is target shape 1. And next time I'll throw the sim, I'll have my character gathering and reaching the slots into that stuff here. And so that's great. And if I had only, I can change my popTool anytime. Let's say I put 0 positions in it. So now my popTool is just a grid. The next time I throw the sim, I'll have all characters converging to that only and only position on my characters. And still, as soon as they converge to it, they just, keep avoiding the other guys, so they're all good. I could keyframe that popTool, have it put some keyframes on it. It's just a locator, so you can keyframe position translations, and the character will follow. Maybe we can, do that. Like here, I'm gonna put a keyframe at this position here, and at frame 700, I'll put a keyframe into another position, which is here. Okay, and if we do that, let's see, I should probably have put my keyframes earlier in time. So let me move it earlier in time. I'm not really good with keyframes controls. Well, Maya doesn't want me to. Well, okay, never mind. Maybe I can go there, go into this and say it's 100. Okay, at frame 100, I want to change my keyframe. Oh, and that's only translate X. Okay, well, I made a mistake here. Sorry, I'm not really good with manipulating. Does that delete my keyframe? Yeah, all good. I'm not really good with manipulating stuff. So, okay, never mind. Let's stick with this. Where's my, okay, well, never mind. My target change position. So, well, the whole goal of this is you notice that even if you keyframe your position for your target, or you know what, let's create another keyframe from here to there. Okay. You notice that the character will not follow it. That's the whole point, right? So here we'll see at frame 100, it starts moving, but characters don't really care about it. And they still converge to the previous position. So what's the reason for that? Another tricky question. Let's go into the GoTo behavior and let's see what's going on. Is there an option? Maybe we can change, enable. That may sound familiar, to previous situation that sometimes we need to specifically say that something is dynamic. And yeah, I can see the answer popping. It's not dynamic, make it dynamic. Target is dynamic checkbox. Yeah, that's correct. Like fetching information from Maya takes a lot of resources. In Golaem, we're fully multi-threaded on entities, but every time we need to access some data from Maya, it's not multi-threaded everywhere. So we're kind of losing sometimes every time you need to ask Maya something. So we tend not to ask it anything except when the simulation starts. So if something in Maya is actually animated and you want to take it into account, you need to say to Golaem that explicitly you need to fetch that data multiple times during the duration of the simulation. So into our GoTo behavior, which is where we set up the target, we've got a checkbox, which is target is dynamic, which is unchecked by default. So we need to check it up. and we've got control on target update period. So period means that every 10 frame, would like to update the target position. So 10 frame is half a second. So for a target which is not moving that fast, it's probably good enough. But if you need to have, like a more dynamic system, you can just turn this to maybe 1 frame and you have something more dynamic. And now you've got all your characters converging and following that target, even the furthest of those guys. Great. I'm still running at 25 FPS despite having 1,000 characters in the scene. So not so bad. Okay, all good. So are we happy with that simulation? I mean, can we just render this and everybody will be happy about it? Like the art director will be happy about it? Or should we, are we good with the typos? Or should we maybe animate those guys? Yeah, let's add some animation. So by the way, if for some reason you're not at that step yet, or you're having weird behavior, please check the script editor. Maybe you're doing something that you shouldn't do. So probably you'll get some error message or warning message which tells you what's going on. And also probably maybe units are not set up properly, even if we kind of insisted on this. So yeah, let's move on with animation. Great. Let's open that behavior editor again. And we kind of spoke with the behavior we want to use now. We kind of spoke about it on Friday. So far, anytime we wanted to play a motion, we kind of use that guy here, motion behavior, right? That guy plays an animation file on a character, which only works if a character skeleton has been loaded. So sounds like it, right? We could totally use that one here. But even if it's legates, it's not the ideal situation. It's not the ideal situation because what we want to do here is not play one motion, because if we just play one motion, we've got pretty crappy animation on the characters. Anytime they'll have to turn, they play the same walk animation and we've got sliding feet. Every time they'll have to slow down, it will just be the walk animation which will slow its speed. So, well, it's okay, but it's not really next generation now. It's really like old style crowds, particle-based system from 2001. So probably not the good timing to do this. So let's do something maybe more advanced. More advanced means that we've got multiple options, but probably the simplest we can use is use the locomotion behavior. So one can create a motion tree if he wants to, and that's only a valid option, and so that's probably more complex, and we will not tackle this. So we've got plenty of tutorials which covers this if you want to make your own motion tree like you will do into Massive or Miami. But here we'll do something maybe more simpler for most case situations, which will work into most case situations. We're going to use locomotions. So locomotion is the fourth icon into the shelf. It's the walking character, but with that green arrow next to it. So make sure that you're dropping the right one. So locomotion, if we take a look on the text, it adapts a set of locomotion animation files to follow the character particle. It only works if the character skeleton has been loaded, which is our situation. So let's drag and drop that behavior. And once again, where should we put this? Should we put it before? Should we put it after? Should we put it before the navigation, after the navigation, within the loop, outside of the loop, here, there? So, okay, it looks like most of you guys now grab the trick about how that graph gets evaluated. So I've got a lot of parallel. I've got a before, parallel in the loop, parallel. So here, what we want to have is characters going somewhere, navigating at the same time, but animated also at the same time. So true, we're going to drag and drop it within the parallel operator. So we've got all operation happening at the same time, all collaborating together, right? So, okay, go above the text again, and let's see once again what it tells. It says adapts a set of locomotion animation files. So it kind of let us know that what it expects to have is multiple motions here. So this is exactly what it tells. Please load multiple motions. Kind of, the more you have, the best it will be. But yeah, do your best, because sometimes for providing motions, it can be a pain. And it also kind of insists of the fact that it needs to have locomotion animation. So locomotion, I guess the word is explicit enough for most of you guys, but locomotion means animation in which the characters moves. So a walk, a run, a turn. So really, locomotion is really important. So what we'll do is we're gonna bring some motion clips into that behavior. So same way than within the motion behavior, we double click on this, and we're going to N assets, character pack, Golaem, motions, and as we can see, there's a locomotion directory here. So let's dive into this and let's see what do we have. So we've got, looks like we've got 10-ish motions. We've got a walk normal animation, walk slow, walk fast. So different speeds of walks. We've got a stand animation. So I know I was saying earlier that you need to have moving file, but with the exception of the stand, so we need to have a stand animation. So we've got a run animation. We've got some walk and turn. So turn right 45 degrees, turn right 90 degrees, turn right 135, turn right 180, 45 degrees. And we've got stand orient. So we've got like standing animation with the character standing still and starting into different orientations. So what we'll do is grab all those motions. As I was saying earlier, the more the best. And I'll explain exactly what I mean behind this. So I select them all and click open. Great. Let's check our locomotion behavior now. If we select the locomotion behavior, now we can see that all those motion clips, they are available into the locomotion behavior. You may have noticed that I just have turn right clips. So that means for now, my characters can only turn right. So what trick can I use if I want my characters to be able to turn left? I've got those clips. Is there kind of a trick I can apply on those guys? Mirror, 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 mirror. Click the orange button, the orange circle. Okay. Oh, you guys remembered that lesson on Friday pretty well. So exactly. Every time you're having orient or a turn animation, so that means there's 9 of those, we're gonna ask the system to mirror those. So remember, if you click once next to it, it's gonna just play the mirrored version. If you click a second time, it's gonna make the full orange circle. So don't put it into every single animation, because the walk animation, it's going straight. So there's no requirements to mirror it, and that probably even provide an error, because that motion when you mirror it is the same. So just do it on the turn animation. So there are 8 of those. There's a walk and turn 45 degree, a walk and turn 90 degree, 125 degree, and 180. And then we've got those stand and orient animation. So the characters is standing still, is stopped, and it starts in different angles. So stand orient 45 degrees, stand orient 90 degrees, stand orient 135, stand orient 180. And maybe what I can do is, well, don't need to do it on yourself, but I can show you how those motions looks like. I can go into my motion clip tab here, and I can show you how does the stand orient 135 degree looks like. So you can see it's a character standing, pivoting. So it's a mocap animation. It pivots around itself and at 135 degrees, and it starts walking. So that's one motion. That's the 180 degree walk. So this is a character walking and turning, like making a U-turn. So that's something, those animations here, if I was just playing a walk animation, I would not have that richness of animation where the characters move its pivot and make all those footprints planting. So you really want to, bring those animation in to bring all that richness. the more animation you provide, the more rich your final animation on your characters are. If for some reason you don't see the name of your motion clips, just unselect. It's just some refresh UI bug here in Maya. Just unselect the locomotion behavior, reselect it, and that will display those right naming here for you. So yeah, if you got motion clips, shape, whatever, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just unselect and reselect, and you should get the UI proper. Whenever the UI is not refreshing, just unselect the node and reselect the node, and you'll get your UI being refreshed. So, okay, let's go through that again. As I said, every single motions, which is a turn, can be mirrored. So please mirror those 8 animations. Make sure that you've got that orange full moon on those 8 motion clips. And that's it. That's it. So it means that now, if I run my sim, I have my characters being animated, and we'll go through, because probably you're going to tell me, I have collisions, I've got something which is not going on properly, it's not correct, or so. Sure, it's not perfect like right away, but we're going to start from this and moving away. So now we've got all the character gathering. If we pause this for a second, every single character has a different posture. So that guy here is not playing the same posture than this guy, which is not the same than this guy's. And what we've been doing is just providing 10-ish clip. And from that point, now we've got, well, a good enough locomotion crowd, I'd say. And, if I'm in the distance like this, any glitch that you can have in terms of collisions will not be really spot on. So I'm kind of happy with that stuff here. So, okay, let's speak into a lot of details about the locomotion and what's going on here. So what I can do is I can select a character anytime. And now that we have a locomotion, we end up with that kind of shape within the visual feedback debug windows. So obviously I can move around my character, see how does the animation looks like. I've got a couple of data about what's the speed of my character, how fast it moves, etc., etc. And whenever I have a locomotion, I end up with that shape here. So that shape here, first is if you set it up properly, it needs to be symmetrical. So left and right looks exactly alike. If they do not look alike, it means that you didn't mirror your animation properly. So let me show you. If I go into locomotion and I don't change the default options regarding mirroring, you'll notice that the next time I throw the sim, now I've got a shape which is not symmetrical. So if your characters are able to do the same thing on the left and on the right, which may not happen when you do zombies, maybe sometimes they can't turn right for some reasons, that's fine if it's not symmetrical. But if you expect the characters to be able to do the same stuff from the left and to the right, you need to mirror those animation, and you need to make sure that those correspond to the right stuff. So, okay, here I'm gonna re-mirror those animations. There. So there are 8 of those. Make sure not to mirror those walk straight animation. And let's launch again. So we're going to consider that every single vertex here is a motion clip. So if I disable, some of the clips, you'll see that my graph now looks different. So every single vertex in that space is a motion clip, and we extract 2 data from each motion clip. So I'll let you try to guess. So it's a 2-axis design here. There's one axis which goes into that direction, and there's one axis which goes into that direction. Let's say I remove the walk, turn right 180 degrees. I'll just remove it. Let's say I launch the simulation again. You can see the shape is different. So what kind of data we extract on this axis? Here. So this axis represents something for every single animation. So first, we've got orientation, turn, degree, orientation, turn, orientation, orientation. Yeah, that's the exact right answer. Well done, everybody. What we're going to represent on this axis is how much motion turns. So the more it is on the left, the more it is on the more it turns on the left. The more degrees, the more orientation that animation has. The closest it is to the center, the less it turns. Okay, so now I'm gonna re-enable that motion so we can see that shape is wider. So now what I'll do is remove that run animation and see how does it affect the shape. So we can see that now it has a completely different shape. So what's on this axis here? So some people mentioned speed earlier. We've got velocity, speed, velocity, speed, go forward and speed. That's the exact answer. That's speed indeed. So if I go back with my run animation, next time I throw the sim, I can see that I'm having a motion here, which is way more faster than the rest. Okay, great. So 2 axes, and every time a simulation starts, we're gonna parse every single of those clips, and we're gonna compute how fast it goes, how much it turns. That gives us 2 data. We're gonna put this into a 2D space, and we're gonna triangulate those data. So that means that here, at the bottom of my shape here, which is at 0, 0, there's one vertex. So what's this animation here at 0, 0? And I kind of hovered it. So yeah, stand. True. So we need to have a stand animation because when there's no velocity on their characters, when they don't ask everybody, they don't ask anything. Sorry, we don't want them to be T-posed. Will not be really natural. So we want you to provide a stand animation. What happens when there's no rules to apply to my characters? Okay, so now you figured this. You figured that those axis here represent speed, and that axis here represent turn. That red dot here, what is it? So we can see it when the simulation starts. It kind of move all into my shape, and oops, sorry, we can see it moving. And if I select another character, we can see that dot here is in different positions. So what is that red dot? So someone tells animation progress, situation of the character, interpolator, orientation process, combination of speed and orientation, competing between the two. So current pose, target for the character, combination of the parameters. It's almost there. Animation currently being played. Wait, it's true. Yeah, correct. It's true. It's it tells you which animation needs to be played, but where does it come from? Where does that? I mean, it's indeed representing what's the animation you want to play. That's kind of the consequence of this. But where does that speed and where does that orientation comes from? Who decides what's the speed of my character and who decides what's the orientation of my character? So we've got from the random selector, behaviors mixing. It shows what cycles are blended to get the result you need. Almost there. Particle velocity, almost there. Navigation, yeah, now we have it. It's triangulating the orientation and the speed. Yeah, kind of. It's kind of everything you guys are writing here. It's the results, and that's correct. That red dot also represents which motions are going to be interpolated for the character to generate. But yeah, I've seen the answer here. So navigation. You remember what we were doing so far? Before, let's say we do not do the locomotion. Let's say I disable the locomotion. And by the way, I never showed you that you can disable some behaviors. So you can like click on the icon and it will uncheck it, and that behavior will not play again. And you've noticed that before we've been adding the locomotion, our characters were moving. They were avoiding the other guys, and this is provided by the navigation behavior. The navigation behavior provides you a speed between 1 and 1.4 unit per second. It provides you an acceleration, how long it takes to turn. So it creates a rule for your character to follow the path and navigate around the character. So the red dot is the rule which is provided by the navigation. So this is why it's different for every single character. That character here, its red dot is here. That character here, this red dot is here, is because the navigation has been providing a different order for every single of those characters depending on what's its current situation, based on also who's around it, how far you are from the target, where's the target compared to you. And you can see that that character, which is like the target is on his right side. So when you click on it, what is going to happen is we're going to ask the character to go on the right and not moving at all. So just turning around itself on the right. So it's going to use the stand orient animation. We're going to play in that stand orient animation. So the character moves into the right orientation, and then we're going to switch into a walk animation to like reach the target. And when it's reached the target, it just go back to the stand. So every single character gets assigned with a different order. So, okay, that's great. Now we'll kind of understood that here, the navigation behavior decide what's the speed. So in this situation here, we're using the default navigation, but maybe tomorrow, if we got some chance, we're gonna design a own avoidance. Here, you know, you don't have much control. The avoidance kind of depends on different rules. You can have some really great results, but you know, if you do, I don't know, some weird creatures, or if you do horses, you probably will not be able to use the default avoidance. The default avoidance is more adapted for human kind of characters which are avoiding themselves with extrapolation. I'll kind of speak about extrapolation a bit later. But here we provide that behavior here, just provide a speed and an orientation, and the navigation will just, the locomotion will just follow that rule. But you can use other behaviors to feed that speed yourself and feed that orientation yourself, and the locomotion will just follow it the same way. If you use Maya fields, Maya and particles, and you just drive your particles the way you want to, you write expressions or you do whatever, the particles will have a speed and will have a velocity, so the locomotion will also be able to follow those properly. So that's great, right? You provide a rule and the system just figure by itself which motion it should play. So also, just to follow this, obviously sometimes the rule which is asked by the navigation does not fit an exact animation. Here in this situation, we're asked to go at, let's make this bigger. We're asked to go at a velocity of 0.54 meters per second, and we need to go on a right at 48 minus 48 radians. So whatever, we need to go on the right. Obviously, we don't have on the right. Yeah, on the right. We need to go. We don't have this exact animation into our motion set. So the red dot here will fall into a triangle. And what we'll do is we'll take the three closest animations, which are a walk slow animation, which is here, stand orient animation, which is here, and walk and turn animation, which is here, which are the three closest. And we're going to blend those three motions together with different weight to synthesize, create a new animation. So this is why I was saying earlier, the more animation you provide, the better chance you have to be close to an actual motion clip, and nothing can be better in terms of quality than an actual motion clip created by motion capture or by an animator. But in some situation when you're in between different motion clips, we can blend those together. Obviously, it's more than just blending those together, because if you blend the walk animation and the walk and turn, if the footprints are not aligned, if you're not playing the same sequence of footprints, you'll have the walk animation, which is rising the right leg, maybe the walk and turn, which is rising the left leg, and you'll have sliding feet, weird artifacts on the legs. So Golaem takes care of this for you. It aligns the footprints together to make sure that when you start a motion, it's always at the right timing with the others, and it blends them together, and etc., etc. So what happens if here the red dot goes way faster or let's say my red dot goes here. What will happen? Let's say I need to go really fast and turn at the same time. And I don't have any run and turn animation. Here it's pretty clear that this area there, it's not populated with any motion clips. So we kind of have an area here where we don't have any motion, which will cover this. So what will happen? Characters will be delayed from the particle. So that's one answer. It's trying to follow the particle. It will be delayed, and that's correct. So what that means here is that your particle will go as fast as it's been asked to, and the character will try to follow its best. But if you don't provide the right animation to do that, you'll have a delay between your particles. Let me show you. Let's tell that here. So how do I make the characters go faster? I've got that questions all the time in schools. I make them the locomotion, the same setup than that right now, and they ask me, how can I make them run? How can I make them run? Do I need to go into my GoTo behavior? Do I need to go into my navigation or my locomotion? What's my take here? So navigation speed, increase speed. Yeah, you guys are better than my regular students. Usually they go into the locomotion and they look for a speed parameter and they couldn't figure it. And obviously it's not here because the locomotion will just follow what it's asked. It does not generate any speed or any velocity. That speed or that velocity comes from the navigation. So that's true. If I go into my navigation behavior here and maybe I pump this up really strongly, like I'm going to multiply this by 3 and I also multiply my acceleration. So I'm going to ask my characters to go super fast. If I do this, I can notice that here, let's unselect my my visual feedback. It's not really interactive anymore. And probably because, yeah, okay, I've got plenty of characters. So I can see some characters which are running, but what's kind of happening, maybe can I spot some guys in collision? Yeah, here it is. What it generates is now it's generating collisions. The reason for that is if we show characters as cylinders, this is the expected positions of my characters. So we can't spot any collisions. So the cylinders and the navigation happens at the particle level, but on the animation, my characters are delayed. Like that guy, I don't know who is he, but that guy here is probably way behind. Yeah, you can see. So this is where the character is supposed to be, and this is where it actually is right now. And as they're not on the same positions, well, the characters is just cutting corners. Here, my cylinder will go really fast through here, and maybe my geometry will be here, and my radius will be here, and we'll have characters going through the environment at some point because they just have to cut corners to get closer to the radius because it can't follow, it doesn't have enough animations to follow this. So this is worst case scenario where you're asking your characters to do something that you haven't provided any animation to do it. So whenever you have that kind of, artifact of collisions, the best questions you have to ask yourself is, do I have the animation I'm expecting my characters to play? Here, I expect my characters to run super fast and turn and run at the same time, and that's something they're not provided with. So animation quality is always first, and then collision comes. So animation quality, we really want, animators to be happy about the result when they provide their clips to crowd TDs. So that's really what's important, realism of animations. But obviously, if you don't provide enough animation, you get that artifact here. So let's say you're super far from your characters and you don't have animations, you've got really low budget. You can still hack the system. You can still say, you know what, it's great that Golaem tried to follow the animation the best it can, but here I'm pretty far from my character and I don't have the time to ask my animator to create my clips. So you know what I just want to do is just stick to my particle, because what happens here is we can clearly see that the characters and the particles are not stick, there is a delay. So what I can do is I can go into my locomotion behavior, and I can go into locomotion attributes, open this. I've got plenty of controls, like how much reactive the system is. If you want to know more about those, I'll let you, check the documentation, but that's just how much the system should be reactive to any change. And rather than being in follow mode, so follow mode means particle moves, I follow it. You can say, I want to be in direct mode. So direct mode means that now the particle and the characters will be aligned in terms of positions. And even if the particles move super fast, I don't care, I want to follow it. So the price you pay here is that now you've got sliding feet because the characters needs to move faster. So we've got run animation, which is the fastest animation we can have, but you've got slidings anytime you're asking your characters to go way faster than what they can do. And in the distance with motion blur, sometimes it can be good enough, but that's not the default mode. So it's just to act the system and lets you provide something which is better here. Great. So that was just a small parenthesis about the locomotion behavior and its limit. It can do plenty of things, but always remember that it relies on the animation it's been provided with. So yeah, keep this in mind. Whenever you've got collisions, keep this in mind. And even if you've got collisions, also remind that at layout, you can remove some characters, you can change their positions, you can edit all of those if you need to. So let's go back to my previous value here. I guess it was 1.4, probably 3 here, or 1.5 here. Let's put 2, will be good enough. And I just want to maybe, end with a different avoidance strategy. Just a quick word about how do the character avoid each other. So objects clear, that locomotion stuff, that's limit what you need to provide. And just also maybe side note, that locomotion strategy here, it's not something we invented. That's something which is coming from the video games people. I think it was the first ID comes from the people at Ubisoft. It was used on the first Assassin's Creed license game. I think on 1, 2, 3 is the system which is used, with the difference that the main character has 2,000 animations into that locomotion system. And they've got 1 locomotion for flat animations. They've got 1 locomotion for crawling on walls, climbing walls animations, which defines how fast you need to go on walls and what you put your hands. And they got 1 for swimming as well, but they got thousands of those because it's the main hero characters, and anytime you throw an order at that guy, so the order doesn't come from a navigation behavior here, it comes from the actual player. With the stick, you provide the direction, and with the controls, you provide if you want the characters to walk or to run. And it used that data here to blend animations together, and they ended up with 2,000 something animation. Obviously, it's not something you can provide in the VFX context. You can see that with 12 animation, it's already kind of good enough. But with 20, 25 animations, you can get some really awesome results, with running and turn animations, that kind of stuff. You can cover almost everything you need. So keep in mind what you want to have in terms of animation is something you need to provide. The Golaem engine is not magical. It uses your assets and try to make the best of it, but it does not invent stuff which were not here. And one day, one wise crowd TD said that a good crowd is a good motion capture or is a good motion set. And I kind of trust that advice that a good crowd always starts with nice motions. So there's plenty of ways now to, have motions. You've got the Rococo mocap library where you can grab motions from. You got Mixamo. You can also have with plenty of systems like the Xbox system, you can motion capture yourself. You got plenty of things on phones now to motion capture from one point of view. So plenty of way to generate animations, and keep in mind that being a good crowd TD is also being able to direct properly the animators, or being able to direct the motion capture guys to ask all the animation you need and have all the richness beforehand so you can use it on your crowds. So It's -5, 8. I'll take a break because I didn't take one at the session before. I kind of catch up with the people who were a bit late. So let's save the scene from now. Let's take a 15 minutes break. So it's 7:57 right now. So let's meet in at 8. Well, let's take a break until 8:15. So I have some time to get dinner as well. And if you got any questions, put them into the question and answer box. And yeah, see you in a minute. Hey, back. And I'm not late, so that's great. Can you show the course overview again so I can see what's coming later? So here you go. So we've been doing navigation and pathfinding, locomotion, ground adaptation, kinda, we spoke about it. Oh, I totally forgot to do multi-entity type, so it's gonna take us like 1 minute to go. So I really want to show you this because it's a neat trick. And what kind of on time? So we probably have time to tackle traffic simulation and probably go quickly through flux simulation. So that's great. So yeah, let's speak about multi-entity type. Let's go back into our scene, and we're gonna save this, by the way. And let's bring back our initial popTool. So let's go back into the first frame. And we're good. So let's say I want to have a woman character in my scene. What should I start with? Let's say I have a character. It's already made. It has all the meshes. It has a skeleton. It's all good. Should I create a new node? Should I change my behaviors? Should I maybe create another popTool? Any suggestion where I do start? Import entity, new entity, new entity, new entity. 6, I guess it's button 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Import entity. Yeah, it's totally the right way to go. So we'll start with this. So here we're going to consider, you've been making your scene. You don't want to break anything. And you just want to add new characters, but to benefit from the same behaviors, benefit from the same population tool. You just want to update your scene with a new type. Later in the game, you may have some suggestions from the art director or from the director that the shot has changed and you want to have more diversity in terms of characters. So you want to bring a new character. So I'll just rename my character here, man character. And I'm going to go here on the entity type node and create a new entity type node. And I'm going to go ahead, click on it. And for the first time, we're going to use another character file. So we'll have a casual woman Golaem character file. So we're going to grab that one here. We're going to open. It's going to prompt us for the shaders because right now we'll just have the casual man shaders characters. We don't have the woman character. So same way, you need to go into the shaders directory, go into finding the casual woman and take the one which corresponds to your rendering, AR for Arnold, RIS for RenderMan, RS for Redshift, and VR for V-Ray. Here I'm using Arnold, so I'm going to use the same extension than before, casual woman AR. So I'm bringing that character in, and we can see now we've got a new entity type that we're going to rename woman character, and within the middle of my scene, super small, here's my woman character. So let's put them, well, it's not mandatory, I just want to show you. This is my woman character. It's not a light version of it, so it has plenty of meshes at the same position, so it's why it looks like a kind of oboe. But at the end, your characters will look like really nice and shiny. Great. Okay. So, okay, I'm importing a new type. If I throw my scene, well, I still have men characters. Let's say I would like to bring woman characters. What should I do? Should I create a new node? Should I change anything into my current settings? What will be the right way to go this? So add an entity to existing popTool, entity types tab, add entity type, entity types tab. Yeah, you guys are way better than my casual students. That's exactly the right answer. One could create another popTool, but you know what? We already have one which corresponds to a requirement, so let's rely on it. So we can go into our popTool here. So remember, we've got man character green, woman character blue. So I can go into my popTool here, go into its attribute, into the attribute editor. As I've been suggested, I can go into entityTypes attribute. I can expand this. Now I can see that my character, that my locator is assigned with the man character, but if I want, I can add an entity type. So within the dropdown, I can pick which one I want to add if I have multiple. And I'm gonna press plus. And as soon as I press plus, haha, it crashes. That's a shame. Damn. Okay, let's rewind your scene. Please tell me that it didn't crash on your side at least. Oh, good. Okay, at least some people, it worked well. Okay, no crash. Great. You know what? Save your scene. That's the right time. Well, anyway, I'm not really worried. I know that Maya saved the status of my scene, so I haven't lost anything. So from your side here, you probably are now able to control the weighting of your characters. Some characters should appear green, some characters should appear blue. Oh, okay, great. It saved actually my scene at the exact right moment. So I'm gonna save my scene and overwrite my current setup here. So yeah, we can see here we've got blue types, green types, but if I actually run my simulation, no woman appears. Even if here I'm saying it's a blue slot, it's not a woman here. We can clearly see it's a man. Yes, we need to replace the current population. You guys good? So go into the popTool, and here if you want to update your actual population, you need to press replace. It's gonna re-emit your population tool. And the next time you throw your sim, now you've got your woman popping in. And if we run the simulation, the women don't move. They're avoided, but they don't move at all, and they're not assigned with any behaviors. So we're gonna change this for my characters to all gather and do the same stuff. Maybe I just want to, no need to do it on your side, but we've got plenty of controls upon the popTool. We haven't really had the chance to play with the paint. I just want to show you that the paint can be used, to paint density of characters. You can load and save maps. You can paint attributes and so on. And you can even paint your actual type. So let's say here you'd like to have only women. You can control. So here I'm going to say, no need to do it on your side. I just want to show you that you got options to override those. You can go into your popTool here. You can say, I want to paint a woman. I'm going to change the radius of my brush as I'm in 100 units. Oops, probably way too big. There, it's up here. So yeah, you can paint, and you can see now, you can say here, it's going to be all woman, or it's going to be all man. And I think, yeah, I think I'm having a unit error with the paint tool. It's not displaying the right size. I guess if I'm in the meter unit, it will be better. Okay, so I'm going to note it, but yeah, totally it's changing everything here. So probably there's a sizing issue here with the population tool. But if you're in a regular unit, you got the right stuff. Looks like I never used that tool when in centimeters. Well, okay, you got it. And probably if I put a 2 units here, and I decide to paint this as a woman, yeah, okay, yeah, that's just a bug display here. Okay, so you can override, paint that stuff. You can paint density, you can paint orientations, you can paint types of the characters, and anytime you're happy with this, you just do replace, and now you've got only women where you painted that data. Well, just keep in mind that's something which is available here, and you can load maps as well to control those attributes. Great. And well, here I do not expect you to have the answer, but let's say I would like my women to move the same way. I want them to follow the target. So I've got 2 options. I can either redo the exact same graph I've been doing, so it's a pain, or I can say, you know what, I'd like to share the same behaviors than the men characters, because something we kind of said in the previous sessions is that we've got some feature called retargeting. So it means that any motion I'm playing can be replayed on any characters for the same costs. So here I would like my woman characters to play the exact same clips, so the exact same behavior, so I don't have to make any exceptions or make any difference into my behavior setup. So what I can do to share, because if I open the behavior editor, I've got my man graph, and here I've got my woman graph, which is empty. So this is why they're not doing anything. So what I would like to do is kind of point towards the same graph. So sure, I can copy a graph if I want to, and that would totally work. I mean, I can go here, I can do a duplicate, and that will duplicate my complete graph, and I can paste it here. But let's say I would like to share the same behavior, so the same modification are replicated onto my characters, and I can see there's some trained people who already know the answer. You can go into your woman entity type. So my man, they're already set up properly. So what I want to do is edit my woman characters. I'd like to do into the entity type attributes, open that panel again, and we can see that the first attribute we have is a dropdown, which is in which container should we read the behaviors from. And by default, it has its own blank container. So what we'll do is just say, you know what, we want to use the man container that's being already defined with all the behaviors. So once again, it's within the entity type attributes. It's by default, it looks like it's the woman container, which is set here, which is empty. What I'll do is just set it as the man container, and I just have a refresh issue here. Man container, here we go. And from that on, now that you set man on here and man on here, when you click within the behavior editor, like the man character, woman character, if you double click on those, they always open the same behavior graph. And that means that now, if I run the sim, I've got my woman gathering to the same target with the same animation. As they are smaller, they just play the animation also in a slower way. And when that locator will move, they follow the same way. So that's really great way, if we had kids, if we had other types of characters, that's a really great way to have a lot of diversity and go along. So let's say you want to duplicate that graph. Another system will be to right click, do duplicate. The duplicate will put it into the same container. What you can do is delete it, and when you delete it from the behavior graph, the behavior editor, sorry, it doesn't delete it from the scene, it just deletes it from the character, and you can find it now, it's here. So I could open maybe another container, and I could drag and drop that guy here and drop it into the flow. And now I've duplicated into the man and the woman container the two different behaviors. So, but if I do a change here, it will not be replicated here, except if you map those two attributes together. So yeah, keep in mind that when you delete something, it's not deleted, it falls into the outliner. As soon as it's in italic font, it means that it's not used anywhere. So you can take it, grab it, assign it to your behaviors, and that's another way to do that. So that's multiple entity types. Tomorrow when we do battles, we're going to have two completely separate entity types, which will have two separate behaviors, and that will be a really way also to take advantage of entity types which have different rules of behaviors. Maybe also something quick. No need to do it on your side, but I just wanted to, I know it's been kind of asked into the Discord at some point, is here my two behaviors are shared amongst my character, but let's say I need to trigger an animation but only on the woman character, or maybe I want to I don't know, let's say the locomotion here, I just want to enable it on the woman character. So how can I filter that this is the man or the woman? So no need to redo it on your side, just you can just follow this. What I'll do is, as always, we're going to set a trigger. So we're going to define a condition under which that behavior will start or stop. So I'm going to open the start trigger of my locomotion. And one pretty handy trigger that we can have is the expression trigger. The expression trigger allows you to fetch plenty of different data that are available from the simulation. So let's say you've got your expression trigger here. You can fetch plenty of different values. So you can check for what's the current frame, what's the entity ID, what's the entity type ID. So apparently we're having something here. What's the rendering types? It's also a good way to make a difference between characters which have flag or no flag. So entity type ID will be great. So what's my entity type ID for the woman? Let's check if that's a data that we have access to. If I click on my man character, we can see that the first attribute we have, which is locked and secured, is the entity type ID. So each type of characters get a sign with an ID. So here, men are going to be type 1, women are going to be type 2. So what I could do is I could go into my trigger here, and I can say, okay, I want to check if this entity type ID equals 2. And probably I can also put a note for myself for later, like put a note like here and say, check if woman type. Okay, check if woman type. And if I run my sim, now I should get only my women, which are animated, and my main characters, they've got the navigation and the GoTo, but they don't have the locomotion because are filtered. So yeah, no need to really do this on your side. I just wanted to show you that you've got plenty of different options. You can create note from that button here. As soon as you click it, you can create a note in whatever context you want, and it's a Maya node, so you can click the text and so on and so forth. So you can put notes here and say this is going to be my locomotion only for women, and you can also switch, use the if and so on based on that type here. Great. So we've been through. Let me check. Navigation, path finding, multi-entity types, locomotion, adaptation. Well, we went through navigation mesh, so which is good enough. And look at the time. It's we have 1 hour and a half. So let's move to traffic. Let's save that scene and let's move to something different. Obviously, if you want to render this, you already know you need to simulation export, press render, do some layout operations to fix this. I'll let you play with this and share your share your work in progress into the Discord. There's a channel for that called the Academy Work in Progress. So yeah, play with Locomotion, and that should be great. And also, I just wanted to go through what we've been doing so far. So let's say tomorrow you have to do a shot like this. This is Le Mans Ford versus Ferrari movie, Method Studio, Stadium. You guys have seen how to make Stadium, so you'll be ready to make that kind of stuff. Here you got audience, standing crowd, not doing much. So once again, it's just they're just playing one motion here, motion behavior, and nothing really fancy. Well, here, explosion, physics, we're going to tackle this tomorrow, so you're not ready for that yet. Here you got locomotion, GoTo, some physics here, but I mean, here the rest is just some targets, some terrain, some obstacles, some locomotion and zombies. You'd be ready to work on Game of Thrones. This is a totally typical locomotion GoTo navigation behavior here. That's Ford versus Ferrari. And still Stadium. You guys can handle that pretty easily. That's a super sweet shot by Rodeo FX. They are close. We've seen kind of the breakdown for this. They are close, locomotion, and so on. Okay, that's new here. We've got 3D crowd, so 3D flying crowd, climbing on top of each other with flocking. So we've not seen this yet, but we may have some times to actually speak about it. Battle shot with just characters fleeing from the battleground. So here you just put a target here and you ask for them to flee, and provide a speed high enough for the characters to move away. That's some standing crowds. That's some running crowds and standing crowds in the background. So you guys are kind of ready for most of the shots I'm actually showing here. with the right assets, the right motions, the right amount of work. That's totally some setups we've been doing so far. Sweet. And physics, we're going to tackle this tomorrow. It's so fun to make characters explode in every way. So let's move to car simulations, because car, obviously, they don't move the same way than humans. So we're going to start with a new scene. I'm going to save this just in case. I'm going to save that new scene to save scene as 04 city traffic. Okay. So let's start by creating a new type of characters. So I'm going to bring, once again, an entity type node. And from that entity type node, we're going to bring a casual car character. So let's open that casual car character. And let's bring, once again, the shaders for that character. So once again, I'm using Arnold. So I'm going to use the casual car underscore AR, stands for Arnold, and bring my characters in. Probably will be worth checking how does my character looks like. So let's me hide this. So what do you think? Does that character as a skeleton? Yes, no, and if you think it has a skeleton, do you think it has how many bones it has? Or okay, yes is kind of okay. Everybody agreed about that, pretty obvious. So everybody is agreed that yes, you need a skeleton. That's something you can't get away with. So minimum that you provide in terms of skeleton will be 1. You need to have just at least 1 bone, and then you can add as many as you want. So some people are suggesting, and some people are actually looked into how many bones there are. So well done. Some people are suggesting 5 bones, and yeah, totally, that would totally work. I guess it's 1 bone for the root and 1 bone for each wheel, so you can totally make the wheel turn. Here, I'm not a rigger, so I'm not really good into this, but my take was I made a slightly more, I think. I made also 1, so I made 1 for, rolling, the rolling wheels. And I also made 1 which control the actual orientation to turn on the wheel. So I've got something like this. Well, not that one here. That's not correct. But I have front left, which is that one here, which allows me to also control the wheel if I want. So I've got 1 bone I control on that direction here, and I've got 1 bone which is just for the roll, for that wheel to turn in and out. That's totally not mandatory. I just wanted to make this rig for people to, see how they can deal with. If your wheels are not going to be animated, no problem with that. But if you want to animate your wheels, that's something which is also available if you want to. Also, some reasons make so many bones is that I also wanted to be able to destroy that car to make some physics. Yeah, and that's correct. If you want to have animated door, you need to rig that door as well. So I wanted to also be able to make physics on that character. And for sure, I could have approximated that character with just a box, but I wanted to be able to detach the tires, and the tires are from a different material from the rest of the car. So this is more like a metal, pretty heavy stuff, not really bouncy. And you've got the wheels, which are rubber and more bouncy, so they have different physics properties. So if you want to also, it really depends what you need to do with that character. But if you want to break that characters in multiple parts and have different physical reactions on those parts, you also need to break it into different materials. So that means into different bones. In terms of skinning, it's a rigid skin, everywhere. So all my car pieces, they're skinned to this bone here, I guess. I've got the floor ref, which when you do cars is probably more advised. Yeah, all the car structure is kind of rigged on this, and my wheels are just rigged on each end roll bones of each chain there. Right. Let's see how does the skeleton looks like. So I'm gonna rename that character car character, And I can go into the entity type, click on that button here, which would allow me to show how does it look. So I can open it and you can see here, it's pretty different from what we've been doing so far. There's no spine bones. So it's really up to you to decide how you want to rig this, to be honest. I could have put a spine here. Well, the thing is, at the end, I would not have any I key. So what you just want is map every single bones that you will animate and you'll apply physics on, but that's the only limitation here. You can put some spine or effectors, some limb and effectors. It's really, it's really what you'd like. If you want to see more about braking your car, I've got a tutorial where I do traffic, and that at some point there's an explosion and the cars explode. Some bones get ripped from the car, especially the wheels, and some characters have accidents with each other, so they react with physics reactions. It's covered with a complete tutorial video about traffic. So just to check for the help, the Golaem, the official Golaem help, and you'll find your happiness in there. Great. Here, let's say I do not want to scale up that character. I want to work in the same unit than my actual character. What kind of unit should I put into my manager node? How much is 1 grid square? Okay, meter. I'll do, you know what? I'll run the academy until I've got 100% success on the answer of the unit question. And if one of you doesn't provide the right answer, I'll keep doing it day after day. So meters, we're kind of agreed here, right? Does anyone has a, of course, does anyone has a different take on it? But I guess that's just to annoy me. Someone proposed centimeters. A lot of people propose centimeters or kilometers. You know what? We don't even have that unit. I'm not even sure if people even worked in that unit. Maybe on gravity they were working on kilometers. Who knows? Yeah, that's the correct one. Meters was the majority reaction here. 1 grid square here looks like 1 meter. So my car it's an American car, so it's bigger than the regular ones. It's 6 meters almost. But yeah, it's pretty the right stuff here. So we're gonna stick with meters here. Great. So when you do car simulation, you don't really need to have, terrain, obstacles and that kind of stuff, because cars are kind of limited to, well, lanes, right? They don't go outside of lanes. Well, they do go outside of lanes sometimes, but I'll say most use cases, you just stick on the lane. So you don't really want to compute the terrain and that kind of stuff. You more want to define how does your traffic system looks like. And we could say that lanes probably looks like a bit like curves. So the idea will be you define some curves and we'll use that to create some lanes that you'll be able to control afterwards. So take the unit here, the size of the car into account, and let's make some roads here and there. So the idea is you go into, the Maya, create curves, and what's the simplest one you can have? CV curve tool. And let's do like an American neighborhood where all the lines are like straight and sweet. So we're gonna create a curve here. So let's make a curve. And you know what, before I'm going too much of does anyone know what's the keyword to re-instance the same tool you've been just using? I know there's something like a key, G. Yeah, great, thank you, that's the one. G and entry. So yeah, let's do kind of a neighborhood here. So I'm gonna do, oops. So make sure to make each curve separate. So here I make one curve which goes from here to there. No, it's no big deal if they're not like touching themselves really. The system kind of gonna link those two together. But for every time you're having a lane and there's no crossing, make a curve out of it. Don't make too much complete curves. Just make one curve, one lane, and obviously you can make some curves if you want. Yeah, you can totally curve them if you want to. Here I just want to make something simpler for me because I'm gonna really manipulate normal curves and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'll quickly make a really small setup there, something like this. So yeah, keep in mind you need to make different curves every time you're having a road, and you can make 3 coming or 4 coming or 5 coming roads at the same spot if you want, and that'll be great. So okay, let's make a really simple system here. And what I'll do is I'll probably group my curves and put this into a transform that I'm going to call road transforms. Great. And save that scene. And we're going to say, okay, this is my neighborhood here. You usually have, usually have your layout. So it's just a matter of approximate your planes or whatsoever with curves. So pretty easy work. So you can totally have curves. No problem with that. You can even have, here I'm all on the flat ground, but let's say you're living in San Francisco. There's no way it's going to be flat. So you can have a curved curve which go above the ground as well. No problem with that. We're going to follow all of those. It's just because I'm not really good with Maya tools. So that's kind of the best I can do, like making straight curves. Great. So let's say you're happy with this. I'm going to consider you guys. Don't make New York City once again. Let's stick with maybe a simple case. And we're going to use this as our starting point to create our traffic terrain. So if we take a look into the shelf here, we don't really see anything which looks like a traffic terrain. And the thing is, we already have a lot of buttons here. So we decided to also put some stuff into the menus, which are not used as often as the rest. So it's not really, often that people do some traffic. That happens time to time, but it's not something really casual like the terrain for characters. So we need to go probably into the Golaem menu instead and go into environment locators. And from that sub menu here, we can see we've got plenty of different locators. So we got the terrain. We're already familiar with that one here. We've got the physics locator. We're going to play with that one tomorrow. We've got some flock locator. If you got some time today, we're probably going to play with that one today. Perception locator, we played with it, but not explicitly, so I spoke about tomorrow. And then you've got traffic locator and traffic crossing locator. So we're going to use that first one here. So make sure that you select your curves, all of them. I'm pretty sure selecting the group will not work. So make sure you select the actual curves, the actual nodes here, or do a select hierarchy. If you select your transforms, I'm pretty sure we've been lazing with that one. So make sure to select the curve. Go into the Golaem menu. I want to hide that controls. Golaem menu here, environment locator and traffic locator. And obviously that didn't work because I think CV curve are not supported. Damn, object is not compatible with that method. So I hope you guys made some Bezier curves instead of CV curve. I'm sorry. Let's, okay. I knew that I had to make sure that was working before. Okay, let's try Bezier, and I'll just, make just 4 of those just to make sure that that's the right one. Sorry, up here, there, and G here, there. Okay, let's see if that's better. This curve there. So Bezier, Golaem menu, environment locator, traffic locator. Okay, that one works. So sorry about that. Did see curve, but in linear, API curve was working. Okay, that's good for you. Well, if like me, you were using CV curves, it looks like, I'm not sure, but it looks like it's not working. Some people suggesting that I was maybe in component mode. Let's see if I try recreating. No, okay, it doesn't work. So, okay, let me remove those. Let me clean that scene. Oh, come on. F8. Delete. Why is not deleting all the curves? Never mind. Okay, Bezier. Well, let's make more into the neighborhood. So I'm gonna just delete my environment. Traffic, there. Okay, it looks like it's better. Okay, let's create the same neighborhood I was doing, but with the Bezier curves instead. here, there. Let's make a curve, G, here, there. Let's make a curve, G, here, kind of there. And let's do a final network here. There, and my final curve. So now you got plenty of times to do it on your side too. Great, let's group this again. G, road, okay, select all good curves from the system here. I'm gonna save that as well. And traffic locator, okay, now we are better. So you may notice that here you've got lanes. Apparently you've got arrows. Apparently first we are on the right driving system. So, you know, regular people. I know there are some countries who are driving on the left side. No problem, we do support that weird cases. But default is right driving. So next to every single curve, you're having a one lane system, one left, one right, going into opposite direction here. And, you know, if you're doing highway, motorway, or bigger lanes, you may want to have more than just one lane for some of your system. So what you can do, and let's say here, that really long road I'm having, it's a 2x2 road. So what I can do is I can select the curve, which corresponds to that exact lane here. I can go into the extra attributes of that curve. Into the extra attributes of the shape of that curve. Go at the far end, and I can figure it. So once again, I've been selecting my longest curve here, go into the shape, open the extra attributes, and here you can see there's some attributes which looks like to be connected to my to a system. So it looks like there's already a lane width, an inner separation, forward lane count, backward lane count. So it's apparently connected to something. And if we wanted, we could break this connection per curves and override those attributes. So if you want to see who's honing those attributes, we can go into the GLM environment group. We can open it. Now we've got something called traffic 1. So traffic 1 is my traffic locator. And we can, so within that traffic locator, we can check on which side of the road we're going to drive. So by default, it's right. How long does it take to switch lane? And we've got default road attributes, which are closed by default. And here you can figure the exact same properties than the one on the curve. So you've got a speed limit per curve, how many backward lane, forward lane. And if you change that attribute here, like you can say, I want to have 2 forward lane per road, you can see that now you've got a system which has 2 forward lanes everywhere and 1 backward lane on the same stuff. And you can change what's the separation between it, what's the width of that road, if it's you know, just a small road, mud road, or if it's a big motorway with really large road. So you set those the way you want to, and whenever you're happy with the default road, you can override this per curve. So here I'm going to say I'm kind of happy with the default system, but I want to say that on that curve here, I want to have 2 and 2 2x2 system. So let me change the inner separation so I can select my curve. Great. I'm going to break the connection here and the forward lane count and the backward lane count. And I'm going to override those values by saying I want to have 2 forward lane and 2 backward lanes. So it's kind of a bigger system here. So let's see. I've kind of closed the question and answer system. So let me try having it again. Are we good on questions? We're kind of. I tried to do some curves, but the arrow goes straight from the start and to the end. Yeah, correct. Let me fix this. We're gonna move forward with that. So amongst all the different attributes you got into the traffic, we've got also something which is called sample count. So how many samples we need to scatter along the curves to follow it. If your curve is straight, 2 sample points is enough because that's just 2 control points. If you're having curvy roads, you just need to either per curve or either on your overall system, decide how many curves you'd like to sample from. And we're going to approximate your curve with the right sampling number. So yeah, that's the right way to do this. And if you got bridges and so on and so forth, no problem with that. You'll have overriding curves amongst each other and they will not detect themselves as crossings. Okay, great. So one final thing we need to do though is that for now, that system is not connected together. Those roads right now are all independent. They're not connecting or yeah, they're not communicating to each other. It's not a network yet, it's just roads which are independent. So once we're good with all the lining up, the white and everything and so on, we can go back into the traffic locator. We can close back that default roads attribute. We don't need that anymore. And we're gonna click on that button here, which is called auto compute crossings. So that process will go through every single line, see where it can find connections, and it will figure where are those connections. It will create crossings. So you can see that everywhere that I have 2 roads or more coming next to each other, we'll have crossings now being designed, and you can decide what's the size of that crossing. So the crossing is going to be used to make traffic lights or just a connection between those. So let's decide what I'm going to do here. Totally, it's the middle of the city, so I'm going to select that guy here and probably make it a bit bigger. So when I select any locator, I can change what's the crossing radius, so how big it is, so I can decide what's the size of it. So I'm going to say, okay, this is my main crossing here, so pretty big. And I can either say it's a junction. So junction means that we will not have any traffic lights here. It's just right side priority if you're driving to the right, and that's it. So it's an automatic priority system, no traffic lights being designed here. So here I'm gonna let this unchecked. But anytime I'm having, that corner here, there's no sense that it's a traffic light. I'm gonna say it's a junction. So now I'm checking junction, closing the radius a bit. I'm gonna do this for that corner here. It's also a junction. Change this. Here as well, it's a junction. Make it smaller. Here, yeah, let's say here it's gonna be a junction, and people will just make a right side priority. Here it's gonna be traffic light. Here it's going to be traffic light. And finally here, it's going to be a junction. Okay, great. And now your environment for your cars is set up properly. So we can save this. Great. Okay, we're good with layout now. Now we need to populate characters. So what will be one really convenient way to populate that setup here? So let's open the popTool and let's see what's available. So we've got the grid, we've got the box, we've got the component, we've got the mesh, and we've got other options. You guys would like to think about maybe another mode which can be available here. I've got selected curves, last one on the right. Other propositions. So the last one of the right, I guess that will be either that one here, which tells us that we can create particles in a sphere. So it looks like it's a volumetric population. That one here, if I over it, use emitted particles and parameterize it with population tools. So it looks like it's connected to an emitter, so not sure. So curve. Okay, curve, looks good, right? Here, if I over it, create particles around the selected curve. So let's select our curves and see what we can get from that mode here. So select the curve first, click on the tool then, and see what we can get. So while we can get that the system is even smart, is even figured that on those curves, there was a traffic system. and that there were 2 lanes, 1 lane here and there, and it populated my curves with the maximum amount of people. So I can obviously reduce the number of characters here. I can obviously change the distance between my characters to make sure that I don't have characters in collision, and I can noise that slightly. Great. So now I've got a system which is populated right on my curve. I can press create, and if I run the first frame, now I've got my cars popping into the right direction next to the curves. Look pretty good. How many of those I have? Just 37? That's not so good. Let's maybe provide a bit more. Let's provide a bit more. 104. Would I get traffic jam with so many cars in such a small system? Probably. 60 will be great. Replace. Great. Pretty great, actually. So next is we want to have, yeah, and if you got interpenetration within the characters, just change the distance. Else is not a big deal. We use the first frames as pre-roll for the simulation. So you'll be able to wait a couple of frames for the characters to de-interpenetrate themselves, and that should work properly. Okay, let's open the behavior editor, because right now the cars are not doing anything. So let's check what should I use as behaviors. So we've been playing with the GoTo behavior, with the navigation behavior, locomotion, motion. So we kind of covered those 4. Should we use those ones, or are they more appealing icons into the behavior editor that you guys want to take advantage of? Traffic. Traffic sounds like a nice behavior name for cars. Traffic. Which one is it? It's that one here. Traffic. Simulate this entity as a vehicle in traffic. Sounds good. And we've got TrafficGoTo. While using traffic behavior, this vehicle heads to the given location. Sounds good too. So let's see if we're just using that traffic behavior. Let's drag and drop it, put it into the flow, and see what kind of controls we have. We've got a maximum speed, max speed when turning. So it really looks like my navigation behavior, right? Acceleration, deceleration, how long does it take to turns? And if we throw simulation, nothing happens. Let's check. No errors. All good. All good. Are we missing something? Or should it work? Triggers, it looks that they're fine. I can see that behavior is actually running. So that's good. Load motions. we could load them. We could do the motion. Okay, if you got missing traffic locator, maybe you don't have roads in your scene, or maybe you got multiple roads in your scene. And in that situation, probably remove the one you don't need, and into the manager node, environment attributes, make sure that your traffic locator is set to the right terrain. I mean, if you delete it, you would not have any traffic system anymore. So make sure that if you got multiples into your scene, pick the one you want to use. Okay, I've seen the answer. Some people are providing the fact, saying that they need to know exactly where to go, and that's correct. So it's the same thing within our characters before. We couldn't use the GoTo or the navigation by themselves if we wanted them to move. So we also need to have the TrafficGoTo. So TrafficGoTo behavior to send them somewhere. Should I put it before, above, after? So above traffic behaviors in parallel. Parallel. Yep, correct. You guys mastered now all this. So GoTo behavior, let's check the properties. It has a target mode, random target into the environment. So they're going to pick a target now. So what if we throw the sim? And here we go. Now we're good. Now we're good. And let's add more frames. And now we're good. We can see that that guy here is having a red traffic light sign, where those guys here had a green one. A green one, which is now turning red. So as it turns red, the character stop. That one will turn green, and we'll wait for the area to be available. And now goes there. Or I need to resample my crossing to have something more great. And yeah, obviously I've got traffic jam too, because there's that one traffic light. I've got a really shitty traffic system here, because I've got 2 lanes converging into 1 lane with 1 traffic light. So it's like worst case possible. Okay, also I'm having probably a problem here, is that my characters, they have way too much distance between those. So I probably need to change the actual size of my characters. So I'm not sure, I can't remember where that is. So let me check the different attributes. So it's not here, it's not there. So it's probably in the type. Let's see. So yeah, maybe just a quick word about traffic debugging. Here, I can feel that there's way too much distance between my characters. And by the way, I've got scaling on my characters, which I really don't like to have. I can see some characters are smaller than others. So we need to unify all those scaling. Can you guys remember where we put scaling of the characters when we got difference? In which node does that rely into? Entity. Let's wait if there are other answers. Entity 2. Yeah, that's the right one. Entity. We've got variation because most of the time you play with characters. So let's go back to 1-1. So we don't have different size of characters. So now we're better. So let's now address that distance between my characters, which is not really great. It's not really optimal. From what I can see, they're stopping way too much beyond each other. So what I can do is sometimes we don't, when you select a character, we don't always show you all its attributes. So you can go into the visual feedback. So you select a character, you end up with the debugger. You can open the Maya viewport settings, and we can show you a lot of different stuff, like where's my target, where I want to go. You know, where is my part of the terrain, what's my trajectory I want to follow. And you can move, and you can see that you've got some stuff which are related to car. So you can display the car box, the car trajectory, the car path planning, and now you can see the display of your car appear. So this is what's used right now for the car approximation. So we can see it's way too long and way too big. So we need to change those data to fit more our actual car character. So here I can see it's yeah, way too long, way too large. So that's probably something you set up once again into the entity. So I'm going to go into my entity type attributes. I've got a traffic attribute, which looks like something I would like to take into account. So I can move this off. And now we've got a radius to length ratio. So what it does, it's taking your radius of your popTool, it's multiplied this by 6, and that makes the size of your character. So either we can reduce the popTool size, and the radius of the popTool size will work, or we can reduce this. Probably 3 will be great. And in terms of white, probably 1.5 will be great too. And let's see if that's better. Almost. So let's go back into my entity type. And also you've got pivot %. So you need to center that box somehow. So here it tells that it's not going to be completely centered on the pivot. So here my pivot is centered. So I want to change. Okay, it's not centered. It's probably change the values until you've got something which looks like something you like. 0.75 is probably, yeah, it's probably good. And it's probably 2.5, 1.5. And this is what's going to be used for, you know, perceptions of the cars. So you really want to have something which fit your actual characters. Great. And now we can see the trajectory of a character, how much it fills the others. You can see the traffic light system. And, you know, when they are stopping, they're kind of closer. Well, they way too close now, so I probably need to increase this slightly to have something more realistic. But now you've got a full traffic system with complete traffic lights, fully automatic. So you can extend this, put as many as you want to, and let it live. And it's usually good enough for background cars that you want to have into your city and have a nice stuff. You just have to make diversity in terms of geometry and shading, and you're probably good. Also, I just wanted to make a quick word about the traffic lights. They're indeed fully automatic by default, but if you want, you can also keyframe those data yourself. So by default, if you select a crossing, you can see it's automatic light timing because we checked automatic lights here. If I uncheck this, you can see those go gray, sorry. And now you've got a manual light timing where you can keyframe those, and you can see the name of your curve. So you can say, okay, 1 means it's green, 0 means it's red, and in between values, anything which is not 0 or 1 will be orange. So characters will pass, but they will slow their speed when they pass that orange light. So here you can put keyframes, connect that to any external system, and you can completely simulate this properly. If you still have interpenetration, just make sure that you set up the box properly. Click on the characters and make sure that the debug values are correct. On my side, I couldn't see any collision, but maybe maybe there's something I haven't taken into account. If that's annoying, let us know, and we can check the scene. But really what you need to have is whenever you click on a character, the bounding box, which is used for traffic, is kind of aligned to it. So I've been displaying the car box stuff, and now I can show that. But anyway, feel free to make a support entry so we can take a look. How do I make a traffic jam? Well, easy. You just have to keyframe a traffic light and put your lights to 0, to red, and that's a good way to traffic jam the system. Or you can ask them to go all of them at the same position. Like my go-to behavior, I was asking them to go a random target, but maybe you can ask half of your characters to go in a specific place. So yeah, let's try to do this. You know what? You guys play with the options. I want them to, so let's create a target here. So I created a target with the button here. Let's put that target on a line. So let's put it really next to a line, like that triangle here. And I want half of the character to go there. And I want the other half of the characters to go random. So that will be a great use case for you, and that'll let me some time to have a drink. Fais-nous une scène de support, Gilles, on pourra regarder ta scène, te prends pas trop la tête avec ça. Il y a peut-être un settings qu'on n'a pas, comme ça on pourra checker. Ou alors peut-être que tu as plusieurs traffic systèmes et que du coup tu as plusieurs systèmes indépendants. Some of the cars disappear when they're close to a crossing. Is that desired or is it accidental? Yeah, probably would be worth making a play blast and post it on the Discord so we can check exactly what's going on and move on. Can we create a roundabout system? Not really, to be honest. We haven't had a lot of requests regarding that feature. Most of the time it's Marvel movies using traffic systems or American movies, and they don't have a roundabout. Right now you couldn't do it because roundabouts are left side priority, so they're not right side priority. And that's why you couldn't make it by just connecting the right curves together, because you would have to apply a different rule. Not a big deal, but that's just not implemented. Yeah, well, you could do a round curve, but left priority will be an issue because that's something you can't set up on the curve level. That's something you set up on the whole system level. If you want to see the actual debug of your character, you need to select it first. That will display the visual feedback. Then you've got Maya viewport settings, which are like kind of hidden at the bottom of that tool. It allows you to show you way more options than what's just available. So you can extend this. You can go into the car attributes, and that car box is something you want to really take into account. You can adjust multiple crossing radius at the same time. Not really, but people usually write Python scripts to do this, or you can just also so there are nodes. So if you want to find them, you can go below your traffic system. Now you have all your traffic crossings, and within Maya you've got the component editor, right? That's the attribute spreadsheet. And within the attribute spreadsheet, you can go into shape. Well, okay, I need to select the shape actually. I'm not sure what's the way to select, but yeah, you can access those data from here, and you can just change them at the same time. I'm not a great Maya user, so you need to extend this to shape and figure where's the crossing radius, and you can use that spreadsheet to change the attribute or write a piece of Python. It's like 2 lines of code to Pythonize this. Wait. I want to. Oh yeah, I kind of asked for something. Did everybody was able to make half of the character go somewhere and half of the character go random? Nope. So what do we need? Let's try making this, like, let's kind of breaking this. So we've got a go-to behavior, which kind of make the characters go somewhere. So, okay, we got half of the problem, right? So we need to have probably another TrafficGoTo behavior, which will set differently, right? So let's start with this. We need to bring another TrafficGoTo, and this one here will not go to the random target. The same than before, we'll say we want to use a target popTool, and the target popTool we want to use is target shape 1, which is my locator. I put in my scenes somewhere. Can't really remember where it is. It's here. There. So now I'm having one behavior which asks the characters to go to that target here, and we've got one behavior which has to follow a random target. Great. So what should I do with this? We've already seen how to make some characters follow one motion clip, make some other characters follow another motion clip. So probably we can use the same strategy than last time. So we're going to bring a random noise. We're going to unconnect that system here. We're going to connect the random to the first traffic, to the second traffic, and we need to find a way to put this back into the parallel. So I'm not sure it will work. No, it will not. Okay. So we need to trick the system a bit. So what we'll do is make our connection. Okay. We're going to select the 3 of those like this. And we're going to do a Control-G to group those guys. So let's group this. Put this into my parallel now. So it created a container because, well, we've got some kind of decide limitation we had in terms of what you can do in terms of connection. And you can see here from the container, you can't really see anything. So you just need to double click on it. So I just dive into it, and you can see here your traffic is not connected to the whole flow. So I just connect it to the flow, in and out. And so now I have a traffic, a random either go to the locator or go to the random position. And now that we do this, we'll have some characters gathering to the locator and stopping to it. And now you can create a traffic jam. and you will have the other characters doing random stuff. So I'll just show it quickly once again, because it's just a bit tricky the way it has to work. So you create your two go-to behaviors. So one which goes random, which goes at your targets. You're going to make your random operator with the middle click. You're going to make your connections. We cannot really, take this and put it into the parallel operator, because we don't really know how it works and how we go out of this. So there's plenty of, technical limitations to actually put this into a parallel. So we need to actually kind of obfuscate it, put it into like a container. So the way to put it into the container is either you create a container from the operator, or you've got a shortcut, which is just you select your connection here, you press Ctrl-G, and that creates a group around that setup you just did. And of course, it's not connected to the default position, so you just connect it with the middle click here, middle click there. So the way you enter a container is double click on the container, you open it, and if you control double click, you go back above, or double click, you open it, and you can use the breadcrumbs here at the above your window, which allows you to go up one step. So here you can go back into the main container, or go back into your TrafficGoTo container. Or once again, double click or control double click allows you to move away. And I can put this back into my parallel, and now we're good. Anyway, you could check, later the stream to redo it on your side. It's pretty, it's pretty neat to merge pedestrians and traffic in the same system, put some nice cameras and render some sequences. It's a pretty, it's really hard to do in other packages. Having simulation of pedestrians with nice animations and cars into the same stuff. So it's really like a money shot when you had such a shot in your scene, and you can find plenty of of cars, 3D models for free that you can just bring into Golaem pretty easily. Now you've seen how does my skeleton system looks like. You've seen how you can bring multiple entity types into the same scene, so you can mix different cars, mix pedestrians, put this into the same setup, do a nice lighting, and that will be really an awesome shot. And you got all the skills now to do such a stuff. Some questions regarding, is there a way to control with a shader attribute on cars who are about to turn a corner or simulate blinkers going on and off? Yes, correct. Absolutely. Amongst, I was saying earlier that you can use the expressions to fetch some data from the simulation. And one of the data which is actually available, so don't do this on your side. I just want to show you what you can take advantage of. We'll dig into this tomorrow. But you've got, channels. Where are they? Okay, they're not here. Okay, that's totally the wrong behavior. I should have created another one. That one probably will be helpful. There. So yeah, remember we were showing that box here, that list of attributes, and this is all the attributes you can expose within the simulation. And if you check with traffic, I guess you can figure a couple of traffic attributes which are available. So first, you can check if traffic is enabled on your character, if the character is actually moving, does it have a target, what's its current position, what's the distance to the target. And then you got something interesting. You got, is traffic turning right? And it returns with the 0, 1 option. And you can write this into your shaders. You can write this into your behaviors. You can use this to, change maybe your wheels orientation, that kind of stuff. So is traffic turning right? So is it about to turn right? And when the car has stopped turning right, that attribute goes back to 0. So here you can start and trigger a blinker. You got the left sign as well. You've got traffic braking. So is the speed of your character slowing down? So it means you want to probably light the brakes. And what's the current steering angle? So what's the orientation of your car? So you can procedurally control your wheel direction as well with that attribute. You can take this, it gives you an angles, and you can write that angles into directly a bone orientation. So I'll show that, I think, tomorrow within the battle system. I'll show you how you can add procedural animation on your characters, and that will work for cars, pedestrians, anything we've been playing with, anything you want to procedurally animate, like a blinking on your eyes, shouting, looking at an object. This is all procedural animation that you can add to add more richness for the characters. Next is there a tutorial on how to set up a car? I think in my traffic tutorials, I kind of resume what I've been doing. I'm not sure if I'm redoing the mapping myself within the video, but once again, it's just a matter of bringing the right node, looking at how I map those myself, and getting inspired by it, I guess. Not really no big deal here. What you just want to do is map the attributes you want to animate at some point. I want to animate the front left wheel roll and the front axis. So I just have different nodes to do this. So it shouldn't be really hard. Maybe check the car tutorial. I probably overview what I've been doing. How do I change the collision box of the cars? It's something we kind of covered earlier. Is whenever you click on a entity here, you can see you need to go into the My Viewport settings and enable the car box to show how does the box looks like. And then you can go into the entity type attributes, open the traffic attributes, and then you can change the length, the height, and the pivot of your box. So you need to make that blue box, going around your character. Great. So that was traffic. We kind of overviewed this pretty quickly, but to be honest, there isn't much to say more about this. Well, there's always more you can say. You can put some physics into this. You can procedurally animate your suspensions, do dampings, procedurally animate your wheels, make them turn. You can have drivers being constrained to your cars and having pedestrians and et cetera. That's stuff you just had on top. If you want to have tires running and turning, it's all about you making it into a procedural behaviors to do this. We don't do it for you automatically. That's something you need to specify yourself, because I don't know, depending on the kind of system you have, we don't know exactly where are the wheels and so on and so forth. So there's if you check on the crowd list, we kind of shared this with our customers. But yeah, there are plenty of okay, thanks. There are plenty of ways to animate this, and we'll see tomorrow how you can make procedural animation. So that gives you a great idea of how to make wheels turning. Great, we've got 30 minutes. Let's make some flying characters. Right now, we've been doing some stuck in the ground characters. So let's make some flying characters and just see maybe just another workflow. And that will kind of end up today's session. So I'm going to save that scene here, go into a new scene, and yeah, save. We've been doing this. Yeah. Right. So flying characters, well, they're slightly different because they don't care about ground, right? So we need to take this into account as well. I'm going to create, as always, a new type of character. So let's go into my entity type. And, well, you can make fly everything you want to. So probably pick your favorite character here. You can make your flying cars if you want to use the same assets we've been using so far. That's totally fine for me. But yeah, what I'll do, well, myself, what I'll do is I'm going to make fly bees. So if you check at the beginning here, you've got a bee character. So we're going to bring that character in, and I'm going to take the shaders in as well. So this is my bee character. So, okay, what's the unit for that guy? Kilometers. We've got millimeters or centimeters. Yeah, it's that kind. I think it's centimeters or millimeters. I'm not really sure how big a bee is. But what we'll do is we'll stick with the meter unit. If we do this, that means our character is not at the right size anymore. So what should we do? Yeah, scale it down, scale it down in crowdManager. Great. Entity scales, yeah, that's the right way, correct. So here I'm kind of happy with that default B, but I want to use a meters unit, delete and redo all. Yeah, correct. Clean the skinning, resize, remove history, reskin the character, redo the character. Yeah, that's gonna be a pain. No, we're gonna scale it down. So let's go into the manager, and well, we'll start with divided by 100 scale down, and we'll see maybe later if that's maybe too big. We'll fix this later. 0.01. So I'm taking 1 and divided by 100, and that gives me 0.01. Great. Next, so let's rename that entity type properly. This is my B character. Great. Next, let's go into the population tool. And what do we have? So we've been playing with the grid, with the box, we've been playing with the curve, with the mesh, with the component. Any mode we should take advantage of? Yeah, I kind of let an int go earlier. I was saying, okay, this is the volume population, and I figured maybe someone will hear this and remember it for later. So great, that's it exactly. So I can use the sphere. That's the obvious choice. And just also maybe another trick I can show you is you can also like create like a Maya sphere if you want to. And you know, you can go into component mode, select vertices here, and take Golaem, popTool, and populate on component based. But you would not have any, you know, characters within that sphere. You just have them on the surface of that sphere. So that's just a trick if you want to have more control. But indeed, we can go into the population tool, take the sphere locator, and drag and drop a volumetric locator. And now we can populate characters. So some may go, you know, slightly around the borders, but no big matter. You can also emit particles, it's true. And I'll probably show that tomorrow as well. You can emit, so you can change dynamically the number of characters in your scene. So you can kill and emit characters. So when you got long shots, you may remove characters you don't need anymore. Oh, sorry about the crash. I'll let you restart Maya and try to reach us again. And when you're happy with that, you can change the noise between the characters as well. When you're happy with that, you can just press create, and we're gonna check if the size of verbies is big enough. Or I think they're too small, right? Well, they're okay. I'm not really sure. Oh, okay, here they are. So yeah, maybe I can change the radius of my characters because, and well, you know what? I'm probably gonna double their sizes because I want to see them more into my environment. Yeah, great. Okay, something like this. Well, they will not be really easy to spot. So okay, let's you know, let's change the radius to get something closer to my actual characters because that's what's going to be used as well for the avoidance, the 3D avoidance. I'll probably make them a bit bigger just for the sake of it so you can see them better in your simulation. Okay, here we go. And I'm not sure how many of those I have. I do have 800 of them, so not so bad. Great. So yeah, I'll let you align those together. So if you want to change the size of the pop tool afterwards, you can actually always expand every single pop tool that you're doing that are shape based. You can extend them, and you have access to the manipulator. And the manipulator is what's defined here. So it's the radius of your sphere. So you can take this and move it so it will change dynamically the size of your locator, or you can just kill that previous sphere you had and just recreate one. But really, yeah, you can just apply this the way you want to. Great. So we don't really care about orientation because we'll have a couple of pre-roll frames here for our characters. And let's move out with the rest. So let's see, in terms of behaviors now, what should we do? Let's take a look at the behavior. So we've been playing with GoTo Navigation, Motion, Locomotion. So not bad. We've been playing with TrafficGoTo. Should we use those? Should we try maybe more? Which one should we take into account? So someone is traffic again. Well, it depends what you want to do, actually. You could totally have traffic bees that will make a really crazy and really great system. So flock, steer, flock and steer. So flock is that one here. Flock performs a flock navigation, only works if a steer behavior is running. So yeah, the people who were proposing like a flock and steer were pretty right. So steer, perform a 3D path planning to a given target. So see the difference between before we had here, perform a path planning to a given target, and here we've got perform a 3D path planning to a given target. Before we were kind of limited to a NavMesh and obstacle computation. Here we're not limited to that anymore. So we're going to drag and drop our steer behavior, and oh surprise, it has well, it has a slightly different interface. So it has a wander mode because some animals wander. So we're going to start steer, and we're going to bring a flock behavior. Where should we put it? Before, above, after. Well, I guess you guys know it's like the fourth time I'm asking this. Yeah, it's the same spot. So we're going to run on the same at the same time both the flock and the steer. As usual, the flock has some speed attributes. The steer has some target attributes. The default mode is set up to wander. Wander means that they're going to take advantage of their area and they just wander around. You can have the reach. Reach has the exact same options than before: target, popTool, system, follow curve, mesh, etc., etc. So wander, and if we just do this and throw the sim, here we go. We've got our flying bees avoiding the other guys, wandering around, and just reaching different positions within that weird sphere that we haven't spoke about yet. If we pay attention, we may notice that some bees are upside down. They're like super crazy, awesome bees. So we may want to change some parameters later. But now we've got kind of, a flocking simulation of 3D characters. And you may notice that they kind of bounded to that environment here, which is what we called the flock locator. I kind of spoke about it like earlier today when I was reviewing the locator. So that guy has been created automatically for you. And if we pay attention to the GLM environments group, there's a flock locator within it. And if we open it, we can change the radius. We can actually provide some obstacles. So let's see if we've got times to play with those. Change some perception attributes. So this is where you define what's the area amongst which the bees will evaluate into. Great. So let's provide maybe an obstacles. Let's add an obstacle. So what I'll do is I provide a 3D obstacle, and it's better if it has smooth normals. I mean, if you provide a plane or a cube, there's some situation where the characters will not be able to really avoid it. If you provide like a rounded cube, which doesn't have any hard edges, that will be way better for the avoidance because we are using the normal of the geometry to make some avoidance. So, best case scenarios are capsules, spheres, rounded cubes, torus, that kind of stuff. So what I'll do is I'll create like a sphere, size it some way, and I put it here. And what I just want to do is add it to my flock locator. So I'm going to select my sphere geometry, as many geometry as I want to, press Control, select my flock locator. So I have two selections at the same time, and I'm going to map my sphere in my locator, in my obstacles attributes. And now the bees are aware about this. And if they wander, you'll notice that now they're going around that sphere. They're using the normals to get away from it and go back above it when they've got a chance. So yeah, just a quick way to have avoiding. If you got like a keyframe animated characters, you can like make some geometry. So yep. Okay. We've got a couple of minutes. What should we do? So okay, something you can do on your side. Let's see. I want to have a keyframe animated target, and I want all my characters to follow that target. So let's go on. I'll let you some time to try this. Pop noises from Discord. Well, my Discord tab is actually muted, so I don't think it's coming from my side. But maybe I'm doing noise with my mouth, which looks like the Discord notice. I should check the support, or who should check the support? Okay. Plus 50 plus new messages. I'm not gonna read all of them, right? What if you want all bees to sit land on that sphere? Well, I'll let you experiment today or tomorrow or when you have time. You may have noticed that there's one extra behavior we haven't spoke on, which if I stop my sim, it's called perch on. Detect perching objects on current trajectory and perch if detected. Maybe you should take a look at that one and see if you can make it work for your own requirements. Let us know. So who's able to have a keyframe animated locator that the bees are now following? How good. Great. Awesome. So for people who couldn't make it work, so it's kind of the same consistent process than before. So we create a target, which can be a population tool once again, but here it's just a regular one. I'm gonna do my best to try to keyframe animate it. So okay, frame 50, frame 200. Put it something like here. Okay. So now I've keyframe my locator. That's great. And I just have to change my steer behavior to reach. I want to reach a target pop tool, and the pop tool I want to reach is that one here. One really nice control you have on the bees as well is also the curve. You can have them following a curve. So really when you do, especially with bees which have really crazy trajectories, you can have them, going at specific ways. And what happens is as soon as they reach, the locator, they kind of wander around. And here we can see they're getting pretty far from the locator. So we probably want to change some attributes of the flock. So probably a good opportunity also to check what we have access to. So flock relies on the pretty old, algorithm from 1986 developed by Craig Reynolds. It's really nice paper, by the way. It's kind of, the basics of avoidance and navigation for crowds. And this is actually, used in Batman Return with the one with Catwoman and the Penguin from 1982, I think. Tim Burton's movie. This is one of the first usage of flocks. They're using this on the penguins in the streets, and they're all driven, and avoidance is controlled with that algorithm here. Also, Lion King, original one, is controlled with, when you got the wild beasts attack. Jurassic Park as well, the Gallimimus scenes. It's really like a classic algorithm here. And you've got multiple attributes you can take into account. One is, so with Craig Reynolds, the guy who developed the algorithm, he was like having lunch in cemeteries. So it's a weird place to have lunch, I should agree. But he liked looking at birds in the sky, which were like doing some kind of clouds. And he was asking himself how one could maybe approximate their decisions, because it looks like there's no special leaders, but they're all like going into the same direction, but avoiding themselves and changing direction at the same time. So he designed the algorithm around three attributes like separation, alignment, and cohesion. So separations is what's the weight which scatter each character from another. So the more separation you provide, and the less dense your cloud will be. So probably I can like provide some really high range of separation, and we may notice that the bees will scatter themselves. So they're kind of scattered. And if we kind of put separations to really small number, we should have more like a line of bees all coming together. I think we should, yeah, okay. Now we've got more line. They not go to the target, but that's another issue here. So we've got separation, you've got alignment, how much each entity aligned with the others, and you've got cohesion, so how close you stay to each other. So it's kind of a weight system that you provide. And on top of that, you've got some speed you can provide, some force. So it's more like a physics properties. What's the force of each entity and what's the mass? So we'll multiply this all together. And, if you've got a really small mass and a really small force, you've got more reactive entities. So let's put like a really slow value here, 0, 0, 1. So slow mass. And you probably have like something which is more noisy, and if you provide less force, you've got more reactivity. So you can play with those. They're all like defined into the documentation, and I think I've changed some default attributes here. And you can have different behaviors for the characters here. Okay, last thing I wanted to do is let's say I'm kind of happy with this and I'd like to animate those wings. Do I have time to animate those wings? Yeah, we do. Okay, let's do it like super quick. It will be like an introduction. I'm not sure I'll have the time to hand it up, but that's just like an intro about how you could animate those. How one would animate those? Any idea how I do animate those wings? Should I have a new behavior? Motion file? Yeah, totally. But it's true that, well, to be honest, I don't have an animator on hand, and I'm not sure I can, well, I don't have any animation for this. So yeah, I can maybe play a walk animation, but that will not be good. So yeah, expression probably will be the right case, because, a wing is just like moving up and down. So no big deal with that. So yeah, I probably will do that. So what I'll do is I'll just show it to you, so I'll go faster. So I'll probably like create a new entity type first, just to make some tests. So this will be my test B, and I'll go on my I'll go on my grid here, rewind back my sim, and populate my scene quickly with a one character. So that's a sphere I created. Let's go back to a grid. So I just want to show that to you. We'll go into way more details tomorrow when we're going to speak about the battle scene. So I'm going to make a one character here. I want to create, and I want to scale that down. It will be scaled properly. So now I should get my B. Well, it's a bit too small. Let's see what's the scale I put here. So it's 4, 4, 4. 4, 4. Okay, great. And I probably want to make this into a separate simulation. So I can just disable that other sim. So I just have one character in my scene and those guys not here anymore. So what I'll do to animate that character here is I'll set up a new behavior, and I just want to make an experiment on the side, and when I'm done, I'll keep that behavior and put it into my other entities. So we've got a new behavior we haven't really spoke about, which is set bone, and set bone allows to edit a bone position or orientation. So next is I want to check what's the name of my actual bone, which controls the wing. Display animation joint size, and I want to reduce that a bit so I can see exactly what's going on here and show my actual skeleton. Okay, and it looks like that bone here. Okay, I'm in component mode. That bone here, it's called hind wing. If I animate this, that animates. Yeah, okay. Bees have two pairs of wings, and apparently we've made those two. So I'll just do it on that joint here. So the set bone allows us to write bone expressions. So let's say you want to procedurally control a blend shapes or a bone orientation or position, you can use the set bone to do it. You can create a bone expression as many as you want to. You're going to specify what's the name of the bone you want to influence on. You have to figure what's the axis. So what was the axis on that guy here? So with my red stuff, red, green. So that's probably the y-axis. Let's check. So yeah, check on your character what's the axis you want to take advantage of. I'll go into my behavior. So I'll say, okay, hind wing underscore R, I want to influence the Y component of my rotation, and I want to override that value, and let's provide like a 90-degree value. I just want to check if I'm controlling the right stuff. Yeah, great. So here we're kind of making a slow transition between T-pose and the 90 degrees orientation on that character, and we can probably do this on the left wing if we've done stuff properly. They're probably named with the uppercase. They're probably named like opposite, hind wing underscore L, probably on the y-axis too, and probably 90 degrees too, that we want to override value with. And it's minus 90 degrees, obviously. Great. Okay, so now we've been providing like a procedural animation, nothing fancy. It's just a static value here. So next step is we want to maybe have a curve here, which decide how does my animation looks like. So what I can do is I can draw a ramp, and I can make a kind of well, I'm not an animator, so sorry if there are some animators in the room. You're totally gonna hate what I'm doing here, but someone who's more capable than me can do this probably. So yeah, I'm making a curve here. I'm saying it's per entity random. Yes, it's dynamic. Yes, evolution mode is not noise. Noise means that we're going to change direction all the time. It's looping, and the duration of that curve is 24 frames. Probably looks good. The input value between 0 and 1, and the output is between probably 0 and 90 degrees. So that's 0 degrees here, 90 degrees here, 0, 90, 0, 90. And in 24 frames, we're going to oscillate 3 times that wing. Let's check. So we're going to say we want that curve here, which is called ramp 0, to be assigned this. So I'm going to do a ramp 0 here, up. Let's see how that looks on that character. Well, it's not fast enough. I can just change the frequency, but well, you get the idea. And here I'm going to put a ramp 0 multiplied by -1 to revert that curve. And here we've got procedural animation too. Well, it's not, it's not perfect, but with the right animators, we can provide like the right curves, and who's got nice stuff. Sure. So can you do sine time dot angle? Totally. But that's just, as always here, you're going to ask Maya to evaluate something, and we prefer not to ask Maya anything because it slowed down stuff. But yeah, totally, you can evaluate Python code, mail code. We'll see tomorrow how you can put expressions into this. And I think, well, we've got another, you know what? I think we've got a sign operator into our libraries of nodes. So probably we can take advantage of this. Let me check. I think here in the chops operation. Yeah, I know, another editor. And we've got arcsign. Yeah, we've got sign. So yes, you can totally do that without going through Maya. So yeah, absolutely. Here I just wanted to have something more visual. But yeah, true, you can build your own expression. So the set bone is kind of, you know, quick access. You just write expression here. With this here, it's visual programming. So you're gonna like do crazy stuff. You can create navigation, motion trees, avoidance, perception, everything you want to here. So you kind of design your own behavior, and you can make crazy stuff with plenty of operators. So it's way more advanced, obviously. So we'll kind of touch the surface tomorrow, but during lockdown last year, we made a couple of sessions around the chop operator and what you can do with it. So yeah, take a look at it if you want to know more, and we'll see tomorrow what to do. So great. Just if Alex, you're around, if you can pop the poll, that would be great. Just to make sure, just to see if you guys were able to, you know, went through most of what we've been seeing so far. So installing the license properly, being able to have avoiding and animated characters into your scene, have traffic simulated cars, and we kind of didn't play too much with bees, but let us know if you were able to go through flocking. If you haven't tried, don't put no, put NA, which means non-applicable. And yeah, today's result is actually pretty good. So tomorrow we'll see battle simulation. There's lots of stuff to tell about battles. So we'll kind of scratch the surface of it. I kind of gave you also a couple of pointers about stuff you can try on your side. Now I think you've got you know, a really nice foundation of skills, and every time I was asking questions, you guys had the right answer in majority. So you figured the basics and the foundations of it, which are the most important. So now it's just a matter of playing with the tools, you know, trying some options we haven't played with. Maybe try combining a traffic scene and pedestrian scene. So make two simulation and combine them with the library item like we did into the stadium. Try rendering this. Now you've got licenses, so make a great layout and a great lighting, and make some awesome shots. And we're good. So let me check. So most of you didn't try to install the license, so we let you try this and let us know ASAP. Then you're good with this. A huge majority of you were able to have animated characters. Same with cars, same with bees. So that's great. That's a success for me then. Okay, it's time to wrap up this session today. So see you tomorrow for the last session. And also for people who want to, you know, practice more, there's going to be an assignment after tomorrow's session if you want to, you know, create a shot for your own reel and work on something. So you have, I think, 2 weeks, and on May 6th, we'll have another session where we're going to review your work if, you know, there are enough of those. So feel free if you want to, you know, make stadium stuff, if you want to make locomotion stuff, you know, it's all the basic jobs and situations. If you look at crowd rails, most of them are stuff that we've been showing. Tomorrow we'll see physics, and we'll be covering, you know, the remaining part of what we've been putting into our reel. So yeah, stick until tomorrow. If you have the time, do your assignment. I'll be super happy to review it. We may invite some experienced crowd TD also, so they can share their take, their own experience. We'll see if they're available for you know, joining us for a couple of minutes. And also all people who we're gonna you know, do the assignment, we may have some small gifts for you, so stick around. You guys take care. See you around tomorrow.